Yep, it's time. Okay. Can you guys hear me? Yeah, all right. Cool. Hello. So, welcome to the live stream. Thanks to Napalm Records for putting this on. I have just sat down. I got my coffee here. I have a coffee cup with a tank on it, as is tradition and my habit. So, how y'all doing today? All right. Well, let's start off. So we got Bodan Vader here. We got Matcha Spoljaric. Juric, the C with the thing, that's the itch, not ick, right? I think so. And we got Bjorn, Dirks, and Mina. What's up, you guys? So I'm just hanging out. This is my house right here. I got my cat. Oh, she was sitting right there. She must have gone outside. Fatsy Klein, and my other cat Zushka, and my wife Noelle. So that's me. That's where my deal. There's a painting my grandma made behind me. So good to be here talking to all you guys. Thanks to all the love and support for the new record and the band in general. And without further ado, let's get cracking on your questions, since I guess I'm just reading them. And here we go. Yeah, pleasure to meet all you too, Mina. So we'll start with the first to ask a real question that I can answer here is Matcha here, who asks, "Hi, John, big fan. I'd like to know, what are some of your tips for new bands? What should we focus on?" So let me start off by saying that one of the things I really love about metal as a genre. You'd have to ask LA. You'd have to ask my wife about shampoo and conditioner, but clearly good ones. Clearly good ones. Anyway, so new bands. What should you do if you're in a new band and you want to start playing metal? Well, holy shit, it's a tough road. I'll start there. So my own background playing metal is that I have no background in music whatsoever. I had never sang a note, and I just wanted to play metal because I heard, probably a lot of the same records you guys hear. Hello. And so it really was kind of this decision for me to jump off a cliff, and I'm going to go do this thing. I saw Bruce Dickinson fall 10 feet off a stage in LA on the Dance of Death tour and get right back on the stage where he probably should have been hospitalized and finish the damn show, which was another like 30 minutes because it's Iron Maiden. And I had such respect for that. And that was really a moment for me where I was like, I got to do that. Whatever he just made me feel, I have to make people feel that. And so that's kind of what drew me into doing this in the first place. That, and there's a metal church show where they opened with Start the Fire. They had Roddy Monroe on vocals at the time, and he just started with one of those Wah! Right after the 4 count, and I was just like, yes. So I kind of knew I had to play metal. And so for a new band starting out, the first thing is basically make sure everyone's really serious. It's not about being nobody starts out and is amazing, but it's about making constant progress. And if you're not able to do that, find out why and how. The second thing I tell people in new bands is, before you ever play live, make sure you're goddamn ready. Don't look like a local band when you play live. There's a lot of fucking local bands, and it's extremely hard to stand out. And one of the sad truths about touring is sometimes, especially in the US, you'll get 5 or so opening bands every single night. And all these guys, they're like nice dudes usually. They're the same as me. They play metal, and but and they're like, "What do you think of the show?" It's like, man, I can't watch 5 sets every single night. But what I do tell these guys is that you got to make sure, and something I thought of myself and something we could have done better ourselves starting out, is bring professionalism to your show from the first onwards, which is really hard because a lot of the experience comes from later. And really make sure that your first show makes an impact. Have not just your songs tight, but and make sure your songs flow in a set. Make sure it's mostly your songs. Don't rely on a cover of stuff people already know. That's not about you. And get your singer to work on his banter. Don't ever be like, "Oh, so you got," I've seen guys do that and it hurts. You gotta act like you know what you're doing up there, even if you don't. It's all acting. It still is to this day. So that's my advice for new bands there. Let's take another one. And thanks to all you guys for just the nice stuff you got to say about the record. We try to make the best metal we can. So let's, because that's what we want to hear, So Let's see what we got for the next question. So, shampoo, conditioner. Andrew finished his exam. A lot of people do in school right now. I'm really glad I finished my bachelor's and I didn't start my master's yet. I'm in this weird limbo right now because I was planning on touring for this record, but I'm not doing my master's or touring for the record. So, I'm sitting at home answering your questions. That's what's happened. Uh, let's see. No, Noelle's not here to see it. She's outside in the garden. Mina, we have a little vegetable garden outside, and she tends to it relentlessly. What do we got here? Firewind's album's out today. Shout out to them from Stormblast there. Nerch Bones asks me, what's my favorite song on the new album? So I don't really have one, and I think I've done kind of a bad job on the album if I have a clear favorite or least favorite, because that means that I could have improved some of the songs. So right there, it just tells you something about the way of thinking changes once you're behind the music versus a listener to it. It just changes the dynamic. I wasn't really ready for that shit when I started doing this, but it's something I figured out. But I'd have to say, if I got to pick a favorite where I feel maybe the most accomplished personally, probably Glorious End, because of the way the lyric turned out. And because I had this idea for Glorious End a full year and a half or so before we wrote it. And the lyric existed very much in the exact form it is in my head. The verses weren't totally fleshed out, but the entire end part where he gets hit by the gas and the "My Father, Are You Proud" and all that was in there a year and a half before any music was laid down. So just I was really proud of my ability to execute that one. And it has a sort of like emotive quality that you don't get from a vocalist as extreme as myself usually. So I was really happy with that. And I think it's something unique for me. But I think that some of the stronger tracks on there would be like I think Defiance of Fate absolutely deserves mention. I think Adam and his style really shines on Notre Dame, King of Fools. Chase Bryant shines like hell on Heart of Darkness and the aforementioned Notre Dame. Chase Becker shreds on every fucking song, and Carlos as a songwriter did so much. You guys got to understand how big of a piece of Will to the Vanquished and Weapons of Tomorrow Carlos Cruz has been, not just behind the drums, but on riffs and songwriting as well. Riff songwriting arrangement. So let's get to the next question here. That was my favorite song answer, I guess, which is a long ass answer. That's the only kind of answer I do. Hey, John. So Metal for Life 1970 Forever says, "Hey, John. Absolutely love Weapons of Tomorrow. Thanks for putting together another great record. Can't wait to see you guys again. What can we expect to hear from the new album live when shows resume?" So we're a band that thinks that basically we're in our strongest form to date right now. We're not, if we want to play the glory days, we play the present. That's how we see it. So you can expect a lot. Basically, a set heavily geared on woe and weapons material, with ourselves, with probably a few from the old ones too. We always like to play shit like Living Weapon, Living in a Whirlwind. The two livings are live staples. We keep Severed. The band's always tight on Severed Reality, which is a chaotic bitch of a song, and stuff like that. And we always got Total War and Combat Shock in the back pocket. And from Empire, stuff like Hunter Seeker and Towers remain tight for the set. We always like to keep strong on those as a band, because if we don't rehearse these regularly, it's they're extreme fucking crazy thrash songs. So it's not like we can just pull any of our songs out of our back pocket. But I do remember all the lyrics. So Metal for Life 1970 to Forever. And I like that title because I often tell people when when you have those conversations, you're talking about some heavy rock music that's not like power of the riff metal, and you got to explain to someone the difference, and you sound like a dick. I often tell people I'm talking the genre that Tony Iommi started in 1970. There's a lot of heavy music genres out there, but that's the one I'm fucking talking about. That's the building I'm in. So I like that username. Hello, Ramon Vervain there. Hello, Varun Ivor. Oh yeah. I'm doing with Quentin from Phantom Witch. He's okay. So Quentin from Phantom Witch, which is a Bay Area thrash metal band of the present, kind of on the extreme side musically. They play a bunch of shows up there and stuff. If you're from the metal scene, there you probably know it. And Okay, guys. So sorry about that. It dropped me out of the call here, but I'm back. So where were we? We were talking about Quentin from Fanwitch. So this guy basically ended up being my pal more or less because he's just a huge Warbringer fan and showed up to every show and stayed around talked to me every time, and I liked the guy. So I eventually just gave my number. I'd call him and rattle off history shit I was learning for an hour at him. But anyway, so it's a funny story there. And anyway, he asked me to do this podcast. I'm doing that on Tuesday, and somebody, I need to find where I was in the comments here. Yeah, Varun Iyer here said, so I'm doing that on Tuesday, and it's going to be more of this, me talking about the band, the record, whatever the hell we did last week. Bjorn here. Start to finish, great album. Hey, that warms my heart. That's exactly what we want to hear. Something I always think, it's bullshit that our generation doesn't get to have full-fledged, straight metal, capital M, awesome records that you can put on your damn wall and listen to 100 times and don't get bored, because that's what brought me here. I love metal because it has so many of those. I can name 15 to 20 off the top of my head, and we want to make stuff like that feels metal in that classic sense. That doesn't mean we're trying to copy anybody, but and still have that songwriting depth, all of it. The idea is you can't do that past 1990 something bullshit as an artist that so I really tried that, so it makes me feel like we're achieving our objective when you say that. Jesus Korea says, do I thrash party? All of the above, dude. Yeah. I thrash. There's few people alive that thrash more than I do on a factual basis. And we play a lot of fucking shows. Mosh occasionally. People still say it. I'll pop into bits on nights we played once in a blue moon. Very rare these days. I'm 33 now. I used to do it more when I was younger. But yeah, Raider, Exodus, I've gotten in their pits on nights where we were open, and certain vets hit me. That's why I'm here. That's why you're here too. Fuck yeah, and party, within moderation, and I try to keep the music the focus, but I like to hang out with people. But I really, I'm more a hang out with one dude at a time. I usually invite one or two people here and cook food for them on my grill. I like to do that. Rich Nice 1975 says Weapons of Tomorrow is your best album ever. Thank you very much. For me, it's Weapons and Woe are up here, and I think the rest have been kind of a slope to get there. And I think the two most recent for me are neck and neck, and I'm really proud of both. And I think collectively they're kind of a new sound and direction for Warbringer that's really rooted in the old sound and direction. It's just a progression of it. So I'm proud of the way that's all gone down. David Correa Diaz says, hello from the Spain. The Spain, yeah. The new album is excellent. You got this. Thank you very much, sir. Jonathan DaCosta, salute. Cosmo Afterlife, Iron Maiden, always and eternally one of my all-time favorite bands, and I love what they do as songwriters. I love the concepts they have in their songs, and they write the best goddamn instrumental sections ever. There's so many 2.5, 3-minute parts in their songs that are just straight jamming that you remember every bit like it was, it's as catchy as the pop song that repeats the chorus 9 times, but it doesn't. It's 6 different harmonies in a 3-minute jam section with Steve Harris doing all the shit he does, and it's glued to your brain the first time you hear it. They have a magic for that on their classic albums, I think. So that's something that inspires us, certainly. Stormblast, see us in Lindau. Hell yeah, we do have tour dates, and as far as I know, that is still on and good to go, and it will be so unless you're told otherwise. So we are in May. Those dates are in November. I think we're pretty damn safe. We want to play some thrash, hopefully then. Well, certainly then, and fucking hopefully sooner. I'm sick of not playing shows. The album came out nearly a month ago. We should have played at least a few concerts by now. Nurched Bones, do you plan on a Cleveland show? So I think someone asked, actually, how does this get decided where tours go? So basically asking the artist where they're going is more or less not useful. I can tell you that I am usually the worst person to ask about where I am going. I kind of get a schedule and hop on the bus or in the van, and I'm worried about where I'm going the next day. You kind of adopt that mentality from touring. It's weird, but it does it to you. So basically, it's where the booking agent is able to secure contracts with local promoters for whatever the range of fee that the band in question is asking for. That's how concerts get promoted. It's where can you basically secure a contract where the promoter is willing to pay what he has to pay to get the band there, and on his end to run the venue, and to staff it and all of that, versus what he thinks he can make on ticket sales. And there's some contract on, like, if over this many are sold, then blank, that's usual stuff. And so basically the promoter is a kind of gambler, hoping that he can pack out whatever his venue is and beat his cost of hiring the band and the venue by bringing in tickets. So in that way, promoters baffle me, because so many of them seem like they want to lose their own ass. Because we, anyway. But that's a curious part of the industry, I'd say. But basically, sometimes we have so little control. Actually, we left our previous booking agent of a long time due to the 54-day tour last time. So when people say they did a 54-day tour, they're crazy. We didn't ask for that. We didn't want to do 54 days in a row. You think I'm crazy? You think I want to be in pain? I had like a busted shoulder from headbang that I was like, and I went to a chiropractor during it. It was horrible. It was really rough to give the standard we want and to live through that. So we didn't choose that. But once we are handed that, now people expect it, and it looks bad on us if we pull out, and we're screwing our own fans. So we don't do that, and we stick it out and power through. But we're like, God, how is anyone supposed to handle this? Playing a Warbringer set 54 shit days in a row. That was brutal. And in 2009, we did 300 days that year. And we were young, and we were pretty much like, bring it on. We want to play every fucking day. And we did. So that's how that happened. But we don't really ever choose where. It's strange, isn't it? I'm not the captain of the ship. I'm like a passenger. It's very odd. So Cleveland, probably, because Cleveland's a standard destination. That's what I can tell you. I don't really know much about touring, though, because coronavirus, and I wish I did. I really do. John Gaunt, your new album was great. Tell Jayhawk Films that he owes me 3 brownies. I imagine they're weed brownies if you're talking Jayhawk Films, bro. I love that guy, Chris, and their channel's pretty funny and great if you're into metal and funny people. Basically, that's their thing. And all those interviews and stuff that you see on there, that's totally unscripted. That is us just joshing around. We're pretty much like that off camera, too. We took him. He did our merch on the aforementioned tour, the Canada. He did the East Canada leg, so like 6 states with us. So that dude's really fun. Rich Nice. No, Warbringer doesn't pay the bills. Music today is really tough. I mean, I wish, and it's not like, the band is actually profitable in this state. It's just to what extent, and it needs, you need a certain measure of profit to pay the cost of living for 5 fucking dudes when you say that, So most of what it makes actually gets reinvested in the band right now to buy things like the giant fucking banner or the stage stuff we do have, and a lot of stuff like that, as well as gear to sound really good. And then we'll invest in sometimes like the 54-day tour. We paid for a fucking like pretty damn nice tour bus with a shower on it and stuff to make the thing so we could actually live, because I couldn't do that in a van today. I would just hate it and be like, what am I doing with my life? I've been doing this for 15 years. God. So it's tough in that way, and it's really tough psychologically, and you get a real chip on your shoulder. It's due to stuff that's happened with the nature of music and the industry. When I was looking at releases that were coming out on April 24th, just that alone on Metal Archives, you couldn't even get to Weapons of Tomorrow with the releases on the sidebar that had like the 20 newest releases. It didn't even get there because there was more than that coming out that one day in metal alone, and it's insane. So that's what you're up against if you want to start a band today, and it's only going to get crazier. I wonder if I'm psycho myself just trying to do it this way, and I think that's part of my motive behind my studies is just like, well, shit, am I ever actually going to pull this off? Now, if we have a few more releases like Weapons of Tomorrow, we get that kind of reaction. Hell, maybe I can. I don't know. The support from you guys and the world, is basically what decides what kind of living it is. It's in one way, it's just pure capitalism with a really bad business scheme. I'm going to make sounds, and enough people have to buy the sounds for me to get a house someday. Okay. Good luck, dude. By the way, like millions of other people make these sounds too, and you're competing with all of them. You have to have better ideas of sounds than them. Okay. So that's the business scheme of being a musician. If you really want to break it down, that's what I'm doing. Fuck. So, that's tough. Everyone gets by their own way. And for me, honestly, it's largely been the support of my wife is what allows me to do this. And I take on, in many ways, a very house husband role when I am home. So that's been since about Empire's collapse, when the band fell apart. That was certainly a part of why. Is because, hey, we've been grinding our asses off playing 200, 300 shows a year, and we still can't make a living. What are we doing? We're going to be 30 soon. That's what happened around Empire's collapse. No shit. It's the thing any band would go through. A lot of bands just break up. When people say we're survivors and shit, I mean, I wonder if the journalists who write that even know how right they are on that one. Anyway, so it's tough being a metal musician in this day and age, and it's just honestly the thing that sustains me is because I'm not in life for material success. I'm in life for art and legacy, and I care about that stuff more ultimately. So I kind of, my family is like upper middle class. I bought myself a ticket, like a chunk down one strata from doing what I do. So I'm lucky, I guess I was even able to do that. I'm lucky I'm able to do it at all. I have to look at it that way. And if I don't, then I can't really keep in the mindset where I can still do this. So there's a very honest answer to your question, because why bullshit? I'm a fucking dude like anyone else here, So that's I hope to one day do something with history, be a history professor, and I might start making media if I can get my ass to do it, where I just talk about battles. But I have kind of worries myself too, because some of the people that do this are like Oxford historians, and they're out there talking about some of the same stuff. So what do I have to add to that? And I have to find that. And I think I do have something to add, which is my own, I guess, way of thinking about things. And but I want to do really well, and I'm also not as productive in my daily life as I should be. So that's taking a long time for me. Anyway, John, what are the inspirations for your favorite tracks on the new album? We are all familiar with, hopefully, History of the Black Hand reaches out. Yeah, Franz Ferdinand assassination. And some people have said, oh, these are stupid, inaccurate lyrics. It's like, it's a metal song that's designed to offer a perspective. And you should know that, the Black Hand, they got to be part of this paramilitary part of the Serbian army within the Serbian government because they had there was previously a royal family there, and they rolled into the palace and murdered them. This wasn't the Black Hand Reached Out the song. That's 1914, 20 years later ish. But the Black Hand, here's a story. It's the Obrenović murder. It's the royal dynasty of Serbia in the 1890s. The members of the Black Hand straight up roll into the palace armed. The royal family hides in a secret wall of the palace. They get the butler. They put a gun to the butler's head, who had been a friend of the family for all the years he'd been there. And they say, where are they? And he does know. So he goes to the secret hiding place, and the king of Serbia, the last name, I forget the fellow's name. I could look it up it's in this book here. But anyway, this guy says, please, my children are here. Do you give me your solemn word that this is safe? And the butler lies to him because he has to, and says yes. The royal family comes out, the Black Hand members just gun them down in cold blood, all of them, the children. They mutilate the body of the queen and throw it out the window. That's how they come to power. So the people on fucking YouTube saying, hey, these guys aren't terrorists. This guy's historically inaccurate. Fuck you. That's how they even are there in the first place. And you're going to tell me they're not terrorists? Come on. Anyway. So that's one thing about it. That's the background of the Black Hand. By the time of that, then they get these younger people who certainly are Yugoslav nationalists and committed. Otherwise, they wouldn't do this thing. And they get these Gavrilo Princips, one of 3 assassins who goes to Sarajevo. The cyanide pill is a real thing. It wasn't Princip that had it. It was one of his compatriots who attempts to take a cyanide pill and fails. But what I zeroed in to as a songwriter is just imagine being so committed to some cause that you're willing to go and carry a cyanide pill around your neck and be ready to take it. That's crazy. So what I try to do with historical events is take the stuff from them that is kind of just universal and interesting psychologically and put that in the song. And you can I'll give enough reference that you'll know what I'm talking about from a historical perspective, but I'm not there to fucking teach you about it in the song. It's a song and it's supposed to fucking rock. So I'm going to talk more about the parts that are actually interesting about it as if you fucking know. And I think that's just a better angle for songwriting. And I compare that like Aces High versus Alexander the Great. One, you're in the cockpit. The other, you're hearing facts about Alexander the Great. What's a better historical narrative? So that's some thoughts on all that. And you asked what's faves on the album. I was saying, shit, all of them really, but I really like Defiance of Fate, Glorious End, the Epics. I like Firepower Kills. I think it's a sweet opener, and I really like some of like the Heart of Darkness, Notre Dame ones too, because I like the evil. and Adam and Chase Bryan, I think, really shined on those. And Adam, if you ever hear something that's like dark, evil melody out of Warbringer, people are acting like that's new on this album. Adam's been doing that since 2008. So that's been him. He's always been into black metal. He's had Dark Throne shirts since before I fucking met him. So the guys, that's him. So people say acting like that's a new thing. It's an old thing. Hey, love the new album, even though Vanquish is still my favorite. What are the bands that have influenced your style? Well, a shitload of them. Basically, Luis Flores. Sorry, moving down. I'm kind of slow here. So I would say the classic metal canon, which is a wide thing, and to us includes some pretty extreme shit. So it basically goes from when Tony Iommi first hit the tritone in 1970 to all your fucking Purple, Zepp, Rainbow. I mean, hard rock into heavy metal into extreme metal, all of that, like 1970 through 1992. That's really the best answer I give you. Megadeth, Metallica, Creator, Slayer, Morbid Saint, Death, Demolition Hammer, fucking Sepultura, fucking classic Halloween shit, fucking all this stuff, just classic metal. Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, Saxon, Angel Witch, fucking all of it, and then anything that's kind of associated with that. Pestilence, Obituary, Immortal, Dissection, fucking metal. That's what influences us. Death, Chuck Schuldiner. Did I say that one? Fucking metal, great metal. That's what influences us. And some of the B and C tier thrash, as they call it, is really excellent. Your Coroner, like Artillery, By Inheritance. There's a lot of interesting, even some shit like Toxic does on their first and second records and stuff. Is like some pretty interesting musical stuff to sink your teeth into. Some of it's pretty wild and out there, honestly. Watchtower or something, Aspid. There's a lot of weird, cool stuff when you dig in to the underbelly of 80s extreme thrash and death metal, so tons of influences. Too many to name. And then certain newer things, some Adam loves his like fucking old Inflamed classic Melodeath stuff where it's still got the riffs, so your old At the Gates and all that makes it, and fucking Bathory, near and dear. Bathory's great because it has records for the and records for and just there you go. What else do you need? So what's my absolute favorite when it comes to heavy bands? I guess Rune Svensson. I guess I just answered it. My official answer is Bathory, but there's a ton. Priest and Maiden are way up there for consistency and just brilliant songwriting, album after album, and great thespian vocal performers. For extreme, I really love the first 5 creators and the development on those, from something really raw and like to something more techie and like so I really like those. I really like the first few Sacrifice records, actually, and actually I think Apocalypse Inside is pretty good too. But the those high screams on Forward Determination, that's kind of, I was learning those in the car when I was starting out, and I was like, I can kind of do that, and that's sort of the basis of the that shit. The one that I do. So all right, Somnium Tenebrae. Hey, John, I love your work, and I'm a huge fan. What are your inspirations, especially when it comes to lyrics? Any tip for beginner guitarists? Well, if you're a beginner guitarist, you're probably better than I am at guitar. Let's see. So, for beginner lyricists, now, I think you can tell if you check out War Without End and you look at Vanquished and Weapons that there's a big difference there. You'll notice that I basically always fucking rhyme, and I've always just liked that, and I kind of sometimes hate it when people don't. And one of the best tricks with rhyming is to actually play rhyme games with yourself. So, like, take any fucking song you're listening to and just apply it to a random situation that like just happened, and plug in rhymes, fit the same syllables and rhyme scheme. That's the game. You take an existing song, same syllables and rhyme scheme, different rhymes. And if you can get your brain to work that way, where it's just doing different rhymes and you kind of expand your vocabulary that way, and you're also willing to do what I call approximate rhymes, where things don't exactly rhyme, like, because you end up with too many things you've heard before that way. So you want the ones where you have to like bend the pronunciation of a word to make it rhyme, like yeah, here, yeah, one of those where you can make it sound like fia, and you can change the actual sound of it, or something. And that's just a bullshit example. I don't like have one of these ready in my head for you. But get used to that, and then try to just like have a narrative. Try not to be too, try to make it generally interesting. Try to use cool words, and try to imagine yourself like playing a character is what I really do. And my character is cynical and evil and sinister and bitter about the world, and like that's kind of the guy I'm playing, and it's because there's a side of me that certainly feels that way, so makes it not too hard to do, I guess. But it's a progression writing lyrics, and you'll find a sort of style, I think, over time. And I just try to make it as colorful and characterful as I can. And since kind of Empires too, I had a lot more creative freedom to kind of sort of go my own angle, where a lot of it became not strictly about history per se, but about like human civilization and power using time as a window. I'm not trying to like tell you about an event so much that I'm trying to like pick at a theme from that event. That's how I see myself writing anyway. And I think that's like kind of the use of the past in the first place. So don't get too caught up in the thing itself. Like, try to figure out what's going on here and what you can learn, and extract these things, or just like extract a powerful human experience. Like I think like the lines at the end of Shellfire, putting that in the first person, the I'm cast aside, make you feel it, even though that's probably, it's probably not a situation you've been in. And it's not one I've been in either. I just saw a photograph, and you can see it's actually, if you watch the Shellfire thing that on YouTube that they put out when the song was released, that we put that photo there. It's a guy, it's a 1919 German soldier. He just fought in the Great War for God knows how long, and and now he's one-legged on the street begging. And he's got his medals, his back's up straight, but his head's down, and he looks completely ashamed. I'm just like, shit, I looked at that photo and I got that verse, so it's about, that's not so much about historical events. That's about the look on that guy's face, and to look at things music's about the human side of it. It's an emotional thing more than it's a logical thing. So I use all this logic in getting at that, and that's the way I work. All right. So Varun Iyer, are there any guest musicians you'd have on future albums? We've talked about this idea before in the past, and what we came to was no. So short answer, no. Our albums are ours. It's not featuring anyone. It's us. That's it. So anything like cover, We did a cover of Death's Evil Dead. I think you can find it on YouTube, where we had a Chris Monroy of Skeletal Remains, pretty sweet, modern death metal band, modern old school sound. That I really like his vocals. They're very like, which is my favorite strain of death metal vocal. And we do Evil Dead, and we do like a duet on the verses of different. So that was pretty sweet. But on the record itself, nah, Warbringer. Okay. MRE Mountain. MREs is in meal ready to eat. Okay, I've eaten a couple of those back when I was as in the Boy Scouts growing up, believe it or not. Yeah, so we did those on camping once or twice. And some it's they like to envision themselves a little as paramilitary. It used to be more of that, but it is less now. Anyway, can we talk a little about the mixing of the newest record? This is Warbringer's Master of Puppets. Okay, so you remember how that Firepower Kills came out and it said rough mix? So it later said rough mix. It didn't when it was released. Here's what happened. We had to go on this 54-day tour. Carlos filled in for Power Trip, so we actually pushed back our record because we were ready to go in the studio when that happened. The guy, their drummer, had like a motorcycle accident, I believe, and Carlos was a guy. Carlos is a really skilled musician. He's a guy that can learn that set in like a day and roll out and execute it on a high level the first time he drops in. They had to play festivals, so that's what they needed. So Carlos could do it, and he did. So we pulled back. I was talking to him. He was like writing Glorious End riffs while he was out there doing that, finishing up the song that we had already mostly finished. And so I'm in contact with him through that, and we go into the studio very shortly after. And so now it's like early July. We have this tour, the 54-day tour we did with Enforcer, that was kind of sitting there, and now we're a little squeezed in the studio. So the thing that suffered for that was the mixing. And we actually, Carlos in particular and myself, did a really hands-on job with Mike Plotnikoff, and that was the first one you heard. That was the first Firepower Kill mix. And we kind of knew that it wasn't quite where we wanted, but you could hear everything pretty darn clear. But it's like, but we had to fucking leave and get the road, and everyone's like, everybody's like, we need this release, because if you're touring without a release, why are you fucking touring and all this? So those kind of concerns played in why that came out when it did, and why there was the delay there was before the record. Because the delay there was, the record would have come out significantly earlier, but we delayed it because we sort of knew that, and we saw that people were agreeing with what we kind of knew already. And so we were like, oh, okay. And ultimately, we got to put the record first. We knew that though we'd tried, we had given it a good effort with Plotnikoff, and we mixed it. It was the same team that mixed and mastered the first record. We paid for a full master job from Howie Mandel, I believe, and it was quite a notable guy. He did Nevermind, believe it. The guy who mastered Woe to the Vanquished mastered Nevermind. Okay, Nirvana, it's some big stuff, names on that. But we actually paid him. He did it. That was the first one you heard. That was Plotnikoff with Carlos, and having a really hands-on role, because Plotnikoff and Carlos work really well and closely together. But what we did then was we sent it to Zach Oren, who mixed Waking into Nightmares and has come a long way himself in his own career since then. And we pretty much said, hey, this needs just a little more like metal roar to it. You can hear everything, but it needs more like grrr to it. And he was like, all right. And he sort of really liked the last record we had worked on together in 2009. So he was a friendly dude and a friendly voice to the whole thing. And he went, and we did very opposite, where we gave him the same tracks. So everything was tracked at the same studio, but it was mixed now a second time. And that's the record you have. So that's the story of how that was done. It was kind of wacky, and we did it a whole second time, and it delayed the record a bunch. And that's, but it got us the record we have, and we're very happy we did that and we spent the time. So, MRE Mountain, thank you for the question, and that's actually a very good question because there's a real story there this time. On Empire's collapse, for instance, the mix, because of like scheduling and stuff with the personnel involved, we didn't get Steve Evans to mix it, though he recorded it, and we didn't like that at all, and we weren't as happy with the result on that. So we were very adamant that that not happen again, because you only get to make the record once, you know. Anyway, Defner Zero, John, how is determining which country and place you'll be touring? I think I might have addressed this earlier when I was talking about how I'm sort of a passenger on the ship, not the captain. Basically, where the booking agent can make a contract with a local promoter, and you know, in order to make something like a European tour happen. So I'd love to go to North Poland. Actually, I've been making and eating a lot of Polish food at home: pierogies, cabbage, kielbasa, latkes, bunch of stuff. It's a real favorite of mine. I love it. So I'd love to go out there and learn some more about that. But it's pretty much when the European tour happens, and it's going to be what they've put together. Now, the European tour dates that exist there, one thing we sometimes do is we will add tour dates specifically in Eastern Europe, because often the main tour won't go out as much into Eastern Europe. And because we're already in Europe and we flew the band and everything there, we'll sometimes add a week or two in territories that the main tour that we were a part of didn't go to, of just Warbringer headline dates. So that's something we may do this time. We've been talking about it, to tell you the truth, and I can't tell you. I'm not really the guy who does and decides all this. I give general directives and then go to where they've booked me. But yes, I'd love to go to North Poland, and I'd love to go to anyone in this room. I'd love to go play in your damn town. I'd love to, I'd love to play anywhere right now. Last Zach in A, is that Zach is in League of Legends. He's a good champion. I like that game. So yeah, it's good to have a Zach on your team instead of some fucking selfish ass jungler who just wants to farm. Zach's gonna try to actually like make plays and shit. So absolutely love the new record, as I knew I would. I was wondering how you learned to do the high banshee screams that have been more prominent on the new record. That's fine. Some people say it's less prominent on the new record. Doesn't but this one and the last one and the third one, I like to open the record with one of those. Yes! Yeah. So basically, I was singing along to Sacrifices for Determination in my car. Before that, I had been trying to sing along to some like Priest painkiller shit, or Walls of Jericho, like old Manowar stuff. And I was very new, so I was completely not up to it. But I knew I wanted the Metal Shriek. So I found I could do the kind of like shriller one on Forward Determination. To me, it reminds me of like if you set a guy on fire, the sound he might make, yeah! So it's a fun kind of. I mean, it's a cool one to do, and it's like a more extreme version of the Halford Shriek, the way I see it, the way I kind of developed it, because the ones on Forward Determination are a little scratchier and shriller, and I've kind of gone a little more Halfordian with it, I guess, with that basic approach. So that's sort of it, and how you learn to do it. I don't know, you just fucking do it, and you kind of see what your voice can do, and you have to take advantage of that. I'm not like a great pitch singer. I have a pretty bad sense of pitch, so I have to use the tools I have well, and that's a challenge. Stormblast, did you visit Playboy Mansion? No. Warbringer Mike, where's Adam? He lives in Ventura, which is about an hour and a half from where I am in the San Fernando Valley. Tristan D, I'm loving the production sound of the last two records. Thank you. I just went in depth on the story of that, and what's funny is they sound pretty consistent together. I think Vanquish, the tone is a little like drier and like, and Weapons is a little like Weapons, I think, is a little more melodic as a record. The side A of Vanquish, really, after Empires, one of the side A of Vanquish should be like repeated blows to the head. On Weapons, we're like, okay, we put Defiance on the side A because we wanted to really put the epic melodic foot forward, because it's always been at the end of the albums before. So on Weapons, we really wanted to throw that up on the first half. Suzuki 52. When I see you in Poland, December. Hell yeah, Poland! All right. I'm John. Hey, I'm John. I'm actually. Here's a fun fact. the 7th. The oof. Is can you guys hear me? This sucks. What's going on? Okay. I'm really sorry, guys. We don't have the most amazing connection situation here, so thank you for your patience. I'm really sorry about that. It's just a few seconds. We're good again, right? Okay. So that's tough shit. Sorry. John, good name. I'm John Kevill the seventh. All the John Kevills have different middle names. My dad's John Kevill, his dad's John Kevill, so on and so forth. They're rather distant lot, sadly, and I myself have that problem sometimes. Rich Nice, my bachelor's is in history from CSUN, which is a few miles from where I live. I live really close there, and I had some wonderful professors such as Richard Horowitz, Donald O'Sullivan, Jeffrey Arbach, Clementine Oliver, Nan Yamane. These were great. I learned so much from all these people and more. Eric Goldner. These were wonderful professors, and I would be in their offices bothering them, asking them questions about stuff related to stuff that we were talking about. And I found a lot of great answers and really pieced together the story I was trying to place, which was French Revolution through World War II. What's going on in the world there? Let's hear some metal. I'll put it on the record. We make metal. That's what we do. Withernet, how do you concentrate live to make sure you don't have any mistakes? So we have a certain amount of mistakes live, and we basically, there's two ways to look at it. You can do the let's trigger and program everything and have everything click so that there are no mistakes. And you see bands that do that, and it's actually really common in metal today. Then there's the we're gonna play as well as we fucking can have minimal mistakes, and that's where we'll wear it. So sometimes Carlos will run a click track, like the Vanquish songs that require it, where there's like to have the incoming boom on Shellfire, we have to do that. To have the come out the front of the house, then we have a click. But about 3/4 of the set, we're actually just freeballing it. We're like a rock band in 1970, or something. Believe it or not, we're one of the fans that does that, and in metal today. And so we are doing it, you might say. No in-ears. So we do it this way, and I get into a really weird place of mind when I'm on stage where time distorts strangely, and my adrenaline's clearly doing something to my head, and it's very autopilot, honestly. So I don't ever fucking forget lyrics. I will. I'll make timing mistakes sometimes, and sometimes I'll have issues with breath because it's just Warbringer lyrics vocals are pretty tough endurance-wise. So that's pretty much that. It's I don't know how. I've done it a zillion times, and the band does make some mistakes, but it's also about what you do when you make a mistake that makes the difference between an amateur and a professional band. Is how do you play off of that? How do you get back on track as soon as possible to where you fucking notice it ever happened? Most of the time we make a mistake. Christ. Ugh. Okay, you guys can hear all this happening? Okay, I'm sorry, you guys. Really sorry. So, Tristan D. Stupid question, but favorite vegetable? Shit, onion. Onion goes with everything. We always cook with onion. Clear answer. Not a stupid question, Tristan D. Tanner Paulson. What are your favorite death metal bands? I tend to favor the old school. A lot of modern death metal gets, like I was just talking about, very everything's gotta be so precise because of what the kind of music they're playing, that they can have zero margin for error, and they can't like be a rock band anymore. And that bugs me. So there's cool stuff that can be done in technical death metal, and I'm not disparaging the genre at all. There's some, it's kind of a sweet shred quest of its own. But uh, I'm sorry. Shit. So, okay. There's really nothing I can do about that, guys. I have kind of shitty internet here. I'm sorry. It is free. So, what do we got here? Where was I? I'm really sorry. Death metal. So I really like stuff like Pestilence, Old Bolt Thrower, Asphyx, Obituary, Death, all the records, really. That's a pretty good example of some of the death metal I like. Massacre from Beyond is pretty awesome. You know, that early Malevolent Creation records, Ten Commandments, you know, that kind of flavor shit is usually my favorite death metal. I really like that Demi Lich album, Niespithe, if you know that one. That's a really weird one. It's like if the Zerg made death metal. Let's see. What else we got? Is Val... Oh, shit, we got more questions. Dan, these are coming in faster than I can... Thanks for bearing with me, guys. Are you going to play the full album on tour like World of Fangs? We don't know yet. I think we're going to... I think we're going to play a lot of new material. I don't know if we're going to do a full record thing. It's a 50-minute record where every other Warbringer record's 40. So that means that we need a different set length to be able to do that and still play encore. But we're probably going to play a lot of material from the new record. We need more songs like When the Guns Fell Silent, says Gabor Berka here. Pure epicness, masterpiece. Cheers from Hungary. Fuck yeah, we played Budapest a couple times. I'd love... I don't know if I've ever sung that long again, but we did a few. As you can see, the epic stuff is very much part of this new record with songs like Defiant, Glorious End, and things like that. Thank you. And I'm really proud of Guns Fell Silent. 11/11, you know, my little mutant remembrance there. I hope to be able to do some proper historical materials where I could speak about that in a very different way, where I could break down like Falkenhayn's attritional logic at Verdun or something. You know. Anyway, Barnes asked, "What about Burzum?" I think the vocals on the first Ah! 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 And okay, guys, I'm gonna switch over to phone data because that's what I got to do apparently. If you guys hold on 1 second, I'll get right back to this, okay? Sucks. Okay, we're switching over to phone data, guys, so just bear with me. I'm really sorry about the interruption. My neighbor's like whacking off to porn or something right now, I think. I don't know. I'm on the same shared network. Yeah. Don't like the guy. FRD. Okay, well, let's try to continue answering questions while I do this. So anyway, Burzum, I like Safim the best by far, um, because I think that one the vocals get a lot better. I really don't like the dude, so I want to be clear about that. I'm pretty much the opposite of his ideology. I'm fanatically anti all of basically everything that guy's for, but I really like Philosophim in particular. I think the torture vocals on the earlier stuff is bad, and it must be said that the song War from the first record is just a total ripoff of Necromancy from the first Bathory record. So there's my thing. But Philosophum is really, really special. I gotta hand it to him. Philosophum's a fucking great record. And I think his Visitless Tar Os, I only see it written. I never know quite how to say it. But that one has some really fucking cool songs. But again, I just think the vocals go a much better direction on Philosophum, which makes it the standout for me. And I haven't really followed any of the newer stuff. So there we go there. Favorite Overkill albums, I would say probably Feel the Fire / Years of Decay Horoscope for different reasons. Feel the Fire for Blitz sings different on that one. You know, it's more like traditional metal and like heroic a bit. So between those, Heavy Dynamics. How many hours a day do you listen to music? It depends. Sometimes a lot, sometimes a little. And it seems we're doing better here. I haven't switched over to phone. Thank you guys for bearing with me. But sometimes a lot, sometimes a little. A lot of like traditional Chinese music around the house where we'll just go on to something and type in like traditional Chinese music and play like a 3-hour playlist and just leave that on throughout the day. Or ancient blank music, ancient Greek, ancient Roman, ancient Egypt, and you'll be surprised what you find. A lot of that's really cool atmospheric music. It's an alternative electric music. Okay, is this working? How are we, you guys? This should work better. I'm sorry, I'm on my freaking phone now. I see it's a janky ass setup. Cool. Thank you, Quentin. Tell me. Okay, sorry guys. We are good to go here. Let's turn off the camera and I'll just read the chat there. So continue. Ooh. Continuing. Okay. So are we gonna play the full album? Where are we now? Simpsons is Val Hallelujah just about furniture? I don't know. I don't know, Mark Montoya. I can't tell you. Heavy Dynamics, studying etymology helps a lot. I know very little about etymology. Let's see. Is there a particular reason you don't swear on songs? Yeah, because it's cheap. Iron City is an exception because of the vibe, you know, where you drink, so shut your mouth and drink your fucking beer. It doesn't work the same way otherwise, but it's in general, I try to, I a band like Warbringer is something of an anti-reaction to all the yeah motherfucker yeah kind of shit you hear that you still hear. So Warbringer does not want to do that. We want to write real fucking songs. That's what we want to do. So that's why we don't generally swear on record. And in all honesty, what's more evil? A guy going like yeah motherfucker, or like you know, cities fall to the barbaric horde. Watch your family put to the sword. You know, you tell me what's more brutal. So that's also part of my thinking. Uh, so, do you like Friday Night Dinner? If you haven't seen it, Please do. I like dinner on Friday night or any other night. I don't know what Friday night dinner is. Okay, Sean Lishman, I will check it out. Friday night dinner. Um, Alberto Estrella, have the historical retrospectives influenced the sound of the band, or is there little intersection? There is absolutely intersection. I always try to write lyrics that fit whatever music there is, and I think some of the more epic sounding music fits with these kind of epic grand themes about time and civilization and what's in the soul of man and all of that. So that's what I feel like I'm writing about when I write about these themes. Um, you guys, Navind Moodley here. Thank you. We appreciate it. Uh, Ardell Trent, the new record is amazing. Definitely a thrash masterpiece. Thanks for the autograph, Silver LP. Hey, thanks for supporting. You know, all you guys, we can't do this without you here, without your support of the band. There's no Warbringer. There's no 21st century thrash metal for us or any of the other groups out doing it. You know, metal lives and dies by the support of the people who love it, and that's the end of that's that. So thank you so much. Really appreciative. Um, okay. Yeah, Mark Montoya, I can't tell you. I can't answer your question, Mark. Doug Reed, hello. Hey, hey, Kay. All right. Um, Athena Wildfong, one of my all-time favorite bands is Deicide. Completely changed my idea what death metal can sound like back in the day. Yeah. I forgot to mention Deicide, particularly for me. That first record stands out. But heavy as fuck band. What can you say? Does Glenn Benton like God? I think not. Oh, Emily Harris. I was wondering why he was filling in for Power Trip. As I said, their drummer had a motorcycle accident. So if you see footage of that band of Power Trip from last summer, uh, summer 2019, around July, you'll see Carlos Cruz on drums. And Carlos Cruz is a hell of a drummer. So is this live or just replay? This is live, even go, as you can see from the problems. Now we fixed them. I'm on my phone doing this janky setup. I'm here for you guys as long as you're here. So thank you very much for staying the course, and I'm sorry for the issues. Heavy Dynamics, love, live. Okay, Mark Montoya, oof. This ain't live unless the dude responds. The dude's responding. So hope to see you guys live in Toronto, Canada again. Hope to be live in Toronto, Canada. Fuck coronavirus. It's not very cool. He does respond to the chat. He's responding. You and go cough when. John, what's your favorite Iced Earth song or album? Okay, I can answer that. So Jane 1205, favorite Iced Earth. So I would say it's got to be Storm Rider because that's the riffiest one, and the title track in particular, that middle break where they just do like 2 minutes of different gallop riffs, is like the highlight of the entire everything for me. I really like that bit. It's thrashy as fuck. So Chaz, when did I realize John Locke's lost the passion for playing metal? Well, he pretty much told me around Worlds Torn Asunder, and it was a real bummer to see our festival tour. Then we were really successful, and I remember he would like drink whiskey and fall asleep with his shoes on and kind of just be like, and out of it. And it was because he didn't feel like he wanted to be there, and he felt like he was getting worked to the bone for nothing. And there's a lot of things about the industry side of music not to like that I think really bummed him out legitimately. So those were the things. But we did Empires very much with that mindset. So you can pretty much look at the cover of that record, and that's what John Locke felt like at the time. And it was him that designed the cover. That's my appraisal of it as not John Locke's. He might give you a slightly different answer, but that's the best I can tell about it. So that was sad, but it was important to be able to rebuild. And that was difficult for me personally because I had learned how to write songs with John Locke's in the first place. And so to do it without him was really difficult. And Carlos really stepped in and filled those shoes of like working as an arranger, and he'll help link my song structure and lyrical ideas to music. And John would do that before, and Carlos does that now. And so I've been able, I don't play an instrument, so I'm not like the easiest guy to work with for musicians. But Carlos has taken on that challenge and become sort of my second real songwriting partner. And Adam's always been there. We work in a different sense, but Adam, either I'll like work on one of his songs, like Notre Dame was very much that on this record, or where he just writes it and I'll put a lyric to it with an idea that we talk about. Divinity of Flesh was that one on the last record. And the other way is that he'll just provide a ton of riffs that we use in other ideas, which, like Heart of Darkness very much was put together that way. Um, Treby, how do you keep the music fresh after all these years? Well, I'll tell you, that's a challenge. It's pretty much, we actually try to go further into our own themes and ideas and be more Warbringer than we were on the last record, if that makes sense. And that's kind of, I wonder how long we'll be able to keep that up. We feel pretty strong right now. We feel pretty creative and capable. I'm coming up with shit for the next release already. I got like 3, 4 song ideas written down. I got to talk to Cruz about. So hopefully is a while, and I want to make a really good run at just a sweet discography, and I hope to never put out a weak or uninspired record, because I really hate those. And I think there's a lot of them. So that's I hope, may God strike me, may figurative God strike me down if I put out a weak and uninspired record, but I have to push myself, and hopefully I can, like, stop when we get to that point, or hopefully we can just keep the hunker and never get to that point. But that's a intense personal challenge all the time. um okay, so Matcha, I answered your question right at the beginning there. I see it a second time, but I let you know I went into that one. So, Varg, does anyone know what happened to the band Hexen? Yes, I do. So Hexen, which you may know Carlos Cruz played in on their first 2 records, State of Insurgency and Being in Nothingness, both sweet records. The first one is a more like Burden classic thrash sound with some progressive elements and a real shredder Ronnie Dorian on guitar. The second one goes way further into like progressive and instrumental leanings, and Carlos wrote a lot of it. So actually, Being in Nothingness in particular, you can hear a lot of Carlos writing more like progressive thrash sound than he does up until recently in Warbringer. Basically, the other guys in Hexen wanted to not be in a band and go and have regular careers and go to university. That's what happened. Carlos didn't, and that's why he joined Warbringer around the time he did. That's what happened to Hexen. So there you go. They were talented guys though, and those 2 records are cool. And you could, particularly on that second one, you can hear Carlos writing in prog mode, which before Warbringer was more what he would often do. Carlos really likes prog, and he plays with Chris Poland in his prog group Ohm. OHM. So you can hear that too. That's a thing that exists. Carlos and Chris Poland, as in the guy from Peace Cells. Yep, it's really cool guy too. We Warbringer rehearses at his studio right now. That's what the situation is. So I think that's pretty neat. Come on, I'm a metalhead. I think that's sweet. um, and on that note, hey, so Ardell Trent asked, "Hey, do I come up with any riffs for the albums?" Yes, a few. And I don't play guitar. So if you see the recent Science of Thrash, as I've called it, it talks about Firepower Kills. And the main verse and chorus section, I hummed those riffs to Carlos. So he actually put them onto a guitar, which is important and relevant. But what he was putting there was me going, bum, ba, da, bum, 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 ba, na, 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 and then just having the chord thing go the other way. So and then the shitty mouthing of the verse, and then how firepower kills there. So that's one. Glorious End, I did the bum ba bum ba bum ba 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 bum. So stuff that's like mouthable and just goes in a song and mostly goes to a vocal hook. I write that kind of stuff sometimes. I'll rarely just write like a standalone riff. Firepower Kills is like pretty far in that direction, but I had a hand in stuff like in certain rhythmic and musical parts and stuff like turning of the gears, in silhouettes, and more often my influence is in the structure of the song, where it's about what is the song, what are we writing about, how do we make it feel like that, and how do we make it structurally coherent, catchy, and interesting. And so I have a lot to do with that, and that's often done as a conversation between me and Carlos is often what figures that out. So because we work together very closely on this stuff, and a lot of times too, though, it's Adam and Carlos cranking out material, and I'm writing lyrics to it. So we work from all these different angles, and everybody's a team, and everyone gets things done that way. Sean Lishman asks, how did I feel about being in the studio with Gary Holt for Waking into Nightmares? It was pretty cool. Gary Holt's a great guy. Hi, Gary, if you're watching. Probably not. But he's a wonderful dude. They were cool to us on our very first tour, and Warbringer in 2008 on our first tour, which was with Exodus, were the first of 5 bands, and we had a shitty ass band, and we drank beer and were fucked up and stupid all the time, and they loved us for that. They were like, you guys are just like we were. So the professional outfit we are now is a far cry from where we started. But much love for Gary and those guys for what they did for us in the start of our career, and just for seeing us that way and believing in us. It's a great pat on the back from some of our inspirations. Gary himself, we'd go out for food most days after, and he brought in Tom and Zetro too, Tom Hunting and Steve Zetro Souza, to join in some of the production. Tom Hunting set up Nick Ritter's drums there, helped set up his drums. Rest in peace, Nick. And then Zetro just came in to sit around and hang out and check out the record. So that was a lot of fun. Let's see, what do we got next? Okay, the tips for new bands from Mancha I've answered. Financial Carp, I expected there to be more people here. Damn, I can't keep up with the people that are here, Financial Carp. If there's more people, what the hell would I even do? So, LOL, no problem, mate. At the moment, we are 100 peoples. Hey, big fan. Hey, can't wait to see you in Ireland again. One day you'll get a headline show here, hopefully. Oops, you guys didn't see that. Unicorn Life. I hope you come to Stockholm, Sweden. I hope I come there too, Unicorn Life. It sucks because Hexen's my favorite band. Yeah, Varga. Hexen's pretty good. I mean, I don't know. I like Warbringer too. They're kind of mutually exclusive, at least with Carlos, because he was so important to either band. So I would take it the way it is personally. Thrasher's Kill. How do you come up with these lyrics and riffs? Because I have a hard time writing. Man, it's a hard thing, and a lot of it's experience and just doing it. I don't think if you look at some of the War Without End lyrics or the demo songs lyrics, it ain't what it is today. And you kind of start out by mimicking your influence, and then you go from there, because you got to set yourself. Then the challenge becomes to set yourself apart. So I'd say our first record is mostly pretty derivative of 80s thrash, and that's kind of our starting point. And we move from there. I think by Waking Into Nightmares, I think we're already a pretty interesting band and different. And I think the first record's still pretty fun. So that's some things I think there. So Heavy Dynamics says Carlos might resurrect Hexen. Yeah, we keep hearing about Hexen because those are 2 of the cooler records of the new wave of thrash, I'd say. And a lot of people knew that, and that was a band with a more progressive take on things than a lot of people the party thrash, what they think of when they think of that. And Warbringer's never really been a good times and party band. It's like smoking craters on the battlefield since day one. So Jane asks, what games do I play during this time? A few. I got good old League of Legends, StarCraft. Those are some old staples of mine. And let's see, what else? There's a World War II card game called Cards with a K I've been fucking with from time to time. And Total War series is always great. I haven't played a campaign in a while, but I just like it, so I'll say that, even though I haven't played it lately. The Warhammer ones, it's like, I wish those existed when I was a kid. Those would have been so sweet. Carlos used to play for Hexen. Yes, Alberto, he did. Okay. Exit Eden, shit, bro, that's awesome. How was it to meet Gary Holt? Well, I met him a bunch of times. We did multiple tours with the guy, so it's cool. You get to know him a bit, and so He's a really friendly guy. I've spent the night at Gary Holt's house once. We crashed there while we were on tour one year. Dude, well, like it was the year he was about to join Slayer. I remember he was talking about that. But a really friendly, warm person. Nothing but good things to say about Gary. Adam loves the dude, and Brock's the Gary Holt model all the time is kind of our little like salute to that guy for being as cool to us as he has been. You know, not everyone in the old guard in the industry is always like so warm and open armed, but those guys in particular have really stood out in that way to us. Um, Nahimis Avenge, you guys should totally tour with Burning Witches. That would totally thrash the house. Yeah, I've heard a bit of that band. That's pretty cool. I wouldn't be opposed to it. That sounds cool. I'd love to tour with fucking any metal band right now. That sounds great. Uh, Yeah, MRE Mountain made the right decision on mixing. We think so too. We've gotten a lot of compliments about the production. Zach Owen, I think, did a great job, and it's the second time he's done a Warbringer record now. So I think he's done a hell of a job both times, honestly. And you could see his growth as a mixer between Waking and Weapons, as well as our growth as a band. Yeah, I'm sorry about the lag. I'm getting to those now. Sorry about the tunnel. Okay, here we go. Back to questions. Hey, I just now caught up to that like 15 minutes later. Uh, if you'd like some melodic black thrash metal, my top one this year, Freda, you told me what it is, but you didn't say what your pick was. But I like black thrash. Why not? Melodic black thrash sounds good. What do you mean, like early Skeleton Witch or something? I don't know. Uh, we're back. Honestly, they sound a lot like Slayer's Tom Araya in some moments, and you're okay at the moment on live. I think Tom Araya is like an okay comparison for what I do. I think that sure, the kind of rhythmic patterns often in the verses, the kind of like shouting patterns basically. But I think the inflection and character is pretty darn different. Tom Araya, and depends which stage, because I think he sounds really different throughout his career. Show No Mercy to the kind of sound you got on like Haunting the Chapel through Rain and Blood to the like South to Heaven Season style. This is just just 80s and 90s Slayer here. Just up to Seasons even. There's a lot of change. So I don't sound anything like South to Heavens or Seasons. You're probably talking about like the Hell Awaits Rain and Blood thing, and in that case, sure. But I think that there's a lot of different stuff I do, and I think the band's soloing is melodic generally, which is a huge contrast to Slayer. So when people say like nothing but a Slayer knockoff, I'm like, Hunter Seeker, At the Crack of Doom, Demonic Ecstasy, fucking all the soft instrumental shit we've done, the end half of something like Treacherous Tongue, so on. So the beginning and end of Beneath the Waves, all this shit that's like not stuff you'd find anywhere in the Slayer discography. You'd have to look into like some other genre to get where that comes from. So I think often Warbringer's been sort of a victim of being lazily written off because we're a thrash metal band too, and we actually play thrash metal. So just metal in general. So I think that very often, I think that just now really we're kind of starting to get recognition for having our own sound and actually being different. And people are like saying they've been this way the whole time, and I'm like, yeah, no shit. So that's kind of how I feel about that. I think there's plenty you can find that's distinctive, and I think you can also hear our influences. But I don't think you could say it's identical because I think that that's factually incorrect. When am I coming back to Margate, Florida, O'Malley's? I don't know. The Florida man was strong that day when we were setting up and sound check. Some guy was like, play some Judas Priest. And Adam starts playing the Painkiller. And the guy's like, yeah, yeah. And it's like 4 p.m., 3:30 p.m. and we're sound checking. Yeah. Okay. That was funny, but yeah, that's my memory the last time I was there. It was, I don't know when, dude. I can't answer tour dates. If they're posted, they're posted. Otherwise, shit, you're asking the wrong dude. I don't know where I'm gonna be. It's like Spinal Tap here. Thank you so much, Heavy. Your Cam Girl tab is open. I'm sorry about my Cam Girl tab. I don't know what that is. Okay. Savio, that was me, Gary Holt. We already talked about that. Cheesecake was Demolition Hammer an inspiration for Unraveling. That song really reminded me of Epidemic of Violence. I guess Demolition Hammer is an inspiration in general. I don't think we were specifically thinking them, but yeah, I could see that because it's really on the fast, chaotic side of thrash. Something like Aborticide or whatever isn't so far off in terms of timbre. So Yeah, in general, that's an influence on our band. That record's top of the top for thrash for me. Just brutal, really, really brutal. That's what I got to say about that. And so basically, it's I think so basically we were thinking a song like Shellfire when we wrote Unraveling, and what we did is we did a song that's kind of that level of fast and chaotic. But Shellfire, we tried to do play 260 BPM and make it like a song that's coherent and song-ish, and you can hear the verses, or you can sing along to the verses in that one. Not so tough. Unraveling is very like those patterns are really fast. So it's yeah, it's kind of in that vein, and I'm thinking stuff like Damien from Spectrum of Death by Morbid Saint and stuff like that. When I'm thinking of a pattern there, we just want a really ugly, extreme death thrashing song. So Demo Hammer's on the list, but they're not the entirety of the list. You're looking at the whole canon of early death and death thrash, pretty much, to look at the influences for something like that. Because we listen to all of it, and we don't like listen to one song and try to make that. We'll listen to like 10 songs and be like something in this vein, and a week later, something that's different from all of those will come out, and that's more how it works. Um, Quentin Miner, hello Quentin. Just graduated with my BS in computer science. Had to pop over and celebrate with the goat, and just like a goat, I'll eat anything. So, Jonathan Olirana, you guys are one of the best metal bands right now. Thank you, we appreciate it. Yeah, I know my connection. Robotic voice, Hexen solos are cool. Yeah, Jane, so I'm planning on being a history teacher. One day I hope to. I think after I tour on Weapons of Tomorrow, I'm going to pursue my master's at either CSUN or UCLA, because those are both in my area. And then I hope to be able to teach at like a community college level and start out there and maybe go further with it, see what I can do. Um, I think that actually being a teacher and being a stage performer, some of the things there's some common skills that overlap. Actually, I think a lot of teachers lack skills of stage performance, or professors and stuff. Many of these people know their subject very well, and like are great in writing or something, but sometimes don't have like public speaking, lecturing as a strength. Some do. Some are fantastic. But I think that that's something that I could do very well at. I got a chance to kind of test, actually. I gave a lecture at CSUN in a class I wasn't in, from Donald Sullivan, who allowed me to do this. And I got to talk about Stalingrad, the Battle of Stalingrad, for 90 minutes, where I focused on kind of the nature of the Soviet resistance as well as the German plan. I talked about the whole 1942 campaign, Operation Blau, the whole thing. So, and I brought out multiple maps. God damn it, you get a lot of maps if I'm talking to you. You need the maps. So that's I had a lot of fun with that, and I got great response. So I hope to be able to do that again. I had fun with it. Um, yeah, sorry. Curse you, Verizon Fios. I know it's actually cursed my Wi-Fi range extender internet situation, guys. I'm it's not always great. Um, do you like fantasy books, Fave? I mean, the classic answer, of course, Lord of the Rings, but I've enjoyed a number. I haven't read any fantasy in a while, though, so it's tough to answer beyond that, because I actually read the whole Game of Thrones series too, and I haven't watched the whole show. I watched up to like season 3, and I was like, they're doing stuff the book's not. Fuck this, that's and apparently with the way it ended, I made the right call, but I haven't seen to find out myself. But I really liked those books. I think the guy ran out of story around like book 3 or 4 though, and needs to wrap it up. And it's taking forever. So that's why I don't rate that one quite on the scale of Lord of the Rings. But some of the writing, it's really page turning, and it's phenomenal in that way. Um, Proud to be owner vinyl of are there any bands we ever feuded with? Yes, but I'm not going to talk about it publicly because I'm a professional. Um, so I'd love to see a Warbringer and Power Trip tour after this madness. Yeah, me too. It's they'd probably have to take us on tour. Probably. Ugh, yuck. Sorry. uh, and that's that. So yeah, we'd love to go on tour with them, or Freddie Witches, or any of the other guys you named. It would be fucking fantastic to just get out there and tour and play some metal. Um, Severed Reality on guitar. Fuck yeah, Tyler. That's the Severed. I love that one. It's great. It's live staple for as long as I can remember. Sworn to the bag, you're asking me about the next record. Hell, I don't know. We haven't even played on this one. It's going to take us probably a few years. We're not going to just put something out after Weapons. We got record 7. It's got to be something pretty damn special. So we're not just going to do anything. We're going to take some time on it and make sure we got a lot of good creative ideas. So Rich Nice asking me, who's my favorite president in U.S. history and why? Well, the real answer is not about who's my favorite. There's a number of important ones who each have their place and role in time. Even a lot of them are like really conflicted and have different legacies on different things. For instance, civil rights gets passed under Lyndon Johnson, which is a pretty big deal, but he's mostly remembered for Vietnam, which isn't exactly looked at so fondly these days. So it's a more complex question than you might think. I really admire today. I think if you read some of the old Teddy Roosevelt speeches, like New Nationalism or something, that a lot of the same shit Bernie Sanders or a guy like that is saying today, a lot of it echoes. Then there's a lot, there's some stuff from T. Roosevelt, specifically in, I guess, foreign policy in the Caribbean and in the Pacific and stuff, where I wouldn't regard him as highly. But as far as domestic and economic policy, I think, him dealing with the Gilded Age and all of that, somebody's got to do that today. Somebody, Christ. So I have also, I have a lot of respect for the other Roosevelt, Franklin, both for World War II leadership and for passing the New Deal and just allowing unionization of the country. Something that's the pendulum has swung this way and that throughout history, but I think that we needed to swing a little back more that way, given the way that more and more Americans find themselves living these days. Can't even pay for a damn decent internet connection. So, do I think Slayer made the right decision, or do I think they should have continued? Well, I'm not in Slayer. I'm not in the room. I'm not in Kerry King or Tom Arai's head, so I can't tell you how many ideas they think they have left, because that's the real determinator. Or I can't tell you how their fucking neck feels or how their back feels or any of that. Those are relevant things. But I think it's more honorable to bow out than to release records that are just kind of like turning the wheel. And what you think of what record is your own thing, but for me, I really appreciate I guess it's in my direct interest if bands bow out and that are in thrash, because then makes room for a band like us, or for Havoc or Toxic Holocaust or Power Trip or whoever, to kind of fill that void. Because if you look at a metal magazine today and you just like look at the bands in the headline and then say, what's the average age of those bands in terms of how long have they been around, it's like 20 to 30 years. Warbringer, considered a new band, now going on 15 years. We're still considered a bit of a new band, and that we just put out our 6th album, so that tells you something right there about the state of metal in general. So I think eventually you do need a bowing out of the old guard, but at the same time, we do want to get as many sweet records out of these these iconic and great musicians as we can. So I think there's a lot to that question, and so I'll rather than give you a yes or no answer, there's some thoughts I have on a question like that. For Chaz 45 43 right there. You saw us in Javier. I don't speak Spanish too well, but I think that means that you saw us in Mexico City with Toxic Holocaust in 2012. That was Carlos Cruz's first performance with the band, actually. Yeah, I think it might have been 2010 that you're talking about, but I'm not sure. But anyways, yeah, if it's the show where he played Mexico City with Toxic Holocaust, that's the one. That was Carlos's first show. It was a lot of fun. Great one. Ronnie Facundo, I think, yeah, new wave thrash is an interesting phenomenon. It's I think thrash metal actually became sort of socially relevant again to the world because of changing social and political conditions in the world. I think that the anger at society again is more relevant when more and more people find, shit, the system's not really working for me. I'm on the wrong side of it, and that's like half of everyone or so now. So I think that contributes to. I think that underlying stuff like that contributes to how people feel, which then contributes to the music they make. Hyundai, yes, I know Lost Society. We've played some festivals with them, but never a club gig. Finland, I do know them. So Heart of Darkness is based. Rich Nice. Yes, it's based on the Joseph Conrad novel. It's actually, I was reading that novel in my CSUN bachelor's class, like European History 4.0 something, European colonization with Professor Jeffrey Auerbach. He assigned that book, and we were talking about the whole thing. We were talking about the Belgian Congo and King Leopold and all these different things around it. And kind of, so the song there represents not only about the book per se, it's not that so much as it's about the nature of power and kind of this fundamental question that when I think when you dig into some of that, like, racist colonial stuff where it's basically one group rolling in with the better guns and with the better weaponry and state infrastructure and all that, and taking advantage of another because they can. The question becomes, if you could have power of life and death and servitude over another person, would you? And I think that the ugly answer is that for so many people it would be yes, basically. And I think time and the sad history of the world kind of shows yes, overwhelmingly so. People would find any reason to make somebody else benefit them instead of their own lives. It's beneficial. It's the sad truth. So I think that's the heart of darkness. I think that's the theme that book actually gets at, and that book's interesting because it's kind of evil from its own perspective in a way, because it mixes between thoughts of like what we're doing wrong. It calls colonialism armed robbery on a grand scale, but then it also has like some really like brutally dehumanizing shit in there. So it seems to flip flop between the two sides, and for that reason the book's a very like muddied kind of thing. There's all these symbolic figures used, and so it's a real like muddy and unclear thing. And we tried to capture that image that you see in stuff like Apocalypse Now of the murky winding river, not just into the depths of the jungle, but into the dark recesses of the mind and all that. And we tried to capture that with like the bass line and the feel of the song as well as the lyrics. So yes. Greg Heiser, love the Death, Black, and Prog influences on the new album. Is this a direction you guys plan expanding on? Thrash is a great base to tie those other influences into. Yeah, I agree, Greg. That's basically exactly our thinking, because thrash led into those genres naturally, and there's stuff in the evolution in between it, or some early thrash, even like some In the Sign of Evil, Obsessed by Cruelty, Sodom, or like some of the vocals on Endless Pain, or something like early Bathory that's still musically very much in the realm of like speed thrash in a lot of ways, is the basis for black metal. That's the early stuff that's around in like 85 or something, becomes what the guys who later made all the true Norwegian stuff were listening to, and you can see that influence and you can see that lineage. So I think thrash going in and ditto for death metal in a similar way, different list of influential records. So in a way, I think that it's really logical. And then some of the stuff we do is where we'll take some of the we'll go further down where black metal went. We'll go to something like some Immortal some like mid 90s stuff that like Immortal or Dissection are doing with the melodic epic stuff, or some like Bathory on like Hammerheart or Twilight of the Gods or Nordland or something, and make like the End of Defiance of Fate and mix that into the thrash context as well. And so that's something we can only actually do with the benefit of like a 30 years retrospective on this. So yes, we really love those influences. We love metal in general. We love some of the extreme stuff, and we've always seen ourselves as a more extreme thrash band. We never saw ourselves as like straight Bay Area. We were always like, that's kind of that's sort of on like the lighter end of our influences, So as much as we do indeed love it. Mr. Motorist V8, I'm not a car guy. I'm sorry to disappoint you. I like some cars. My dad actually, whenever we'd see a Dodge Viper, it was a custom that he would go, Viper! And that was pretty cool. So because it has a cool name too. But honestly, I'm more into planes and tanks. I would get way more stoked about like a P-38 Lightning or that Tiger tank that's running at the Bovington Tank Museum in England than I would like a Lamborghini or Ferrari or something. If I do have a favorite car though, and it's one of the old Shelby Cobras with the classic blue and white racing stripes, and I prefer of course a convertible, because then you could drive it up and down PCH here in California, and that would be for me the ultimate car experience. So I do have some thoughts to make your question not a bummer, but I'd much rather drive a tank. Even so, I've never driven a tank. I must drive a tank over a wall or fence or something in my life. Somebody help me do this. Uh, uh, Mark Milani. John, greetings from Guatemala. Hey, we got to go to Guatemala once a couple of years ago. It was wonderful. Thank you so much, Mark. Thanks. I'm glad you liked the album. Lopen Camshaft. Check out the new No Clip doc about the company that makes the Total War games. They do a great job. I'm really happy with them. So maybe I will actually. I like Creative Assembly a lot. They've done a great series of things, and both the historical and the fantasy titles are pretty wonderful. I have like 3/4 of everything that company's ever released. Yeah, Ronnie, the documentary on New Wave Thrash. I got you. Why stay at home? Indeed. Um, let's see. Oh, we jumped all the way down to the bottom. You guys are still asking more questions. Okay. Um, Defiance of Fate. What a tune. Okay, we're gonna just jump back up. No glam rock lyric. Okay, here we go. Jeez, you guys pumping these questions out. It's fast. You might need to write an article answering the questions, Alberto. Yeah, I guess so. But I've been doing that. I've been doing press every day. I'm doing more writing right now than I was when I was doing my bachelor's. It's funny. Just album press. It's great, honestly. It's a great opportunity. Um, Glad you're enjoying the live Sonimum. Benjamin RM, I like progressive death metal like Opeth. Carlos and Adam in particular really like this band, and I'm not like into it on that level where I know all their albums front to back, but I know a number of their songs. I've seen them live multiple times at festivals we played and stuff. I watched their set. I think they're impressive musicians, and I think what they do is pretty unique and cool. So I like that's one of the things that Warbringer doesn't traffic in that much. I mean, actually, some of the progressive stuff you'll find here and there in our songs, but some of the more like atmospheric bent, we're very much like power of the riff all the time. That's our angle. But some of the more atmospheric kind of stuff they bring in is really cool, and has changed, I think, metal a little bit. I think the existence and success of a band like that changes the context of what metal's coming out now. Carrie Jones, you are shit. Okay. Nice. Mina, what does metal mean to you? So Mina, it's basically, I think metal's the ultimate form of rock music. Basically, I think that the reason for this is because metal is like a lot of what music is in general is basically a commercial industry to try to make money by selling people sounds and images with those sounds now since the 80s or whatever. Um, and now it's more about, I think, like lifestyle branding, or like which pop star, rapper, whatever do you think looks like the coolest and richest modern person that you'd love to be like, that's also the most beautiful. And metal is just in such opposition to that. It's like, fuck that. I'm an ugly fucking old dude with weird clothes who's like made a temple to shred that will stand eternally. It's like the complete opposite. And that's what metal means to me. It's art for its own sake. You're going to do shit like write a Rime of the Ancient Mariner or Twilight of the Gods. Here's a 14-minute song about the decline of the old ways that I recorded in my basement that has like acoustic guitar layers that's brilliant and epic and few will ever hear it or know. And that's metal. That's the essence. And that's what's so different about it. And that's why it's so special. That's why true metal actually is a thing. It's not this restrictive one kind of sound. That's really stupid. A lot of the people who say that, I think, are really dumb. But I think the term does mean something, and I think that it's that. Why are you here? What is your motive? Are you trying to like do art for art's sake, or are you trying to sell me something? And metal is so. I think real metal is so far from that, where we're gonna right in all these weird directions. We're going to do a 3-minute guitar solo here because we feel like it and we think it completes the vision of the song we have. And not metal by convention or numbers either, because I think that's kind of a thing too now. It's a well-established genre. So I'm picky. I'm fucking picky. But that's what I find special about it, and that's what keeps me here after 15 years. I can write shit like I did an 11-minute song on the First World War with poets in the lyrics and stuff. I can do that in metal. It doesn't matter if it's fucking sells or not. I did it. God damn it, and it's there. So that's metal to me. No glam rock lyrics. Nah, not really. Some of those are really insufferable. Like, even some like Def Leppard or whatever. It's like, God, you wrote this on a piece of paper. Christ. I feel that way about some of my early lines, to be fair. It's sometimes I'm trying hard on lyrics now, so you can tell what side of that fence I'm on. But the people who say lyrics don't matter, it's like change Holy Wars to be about bacon cookies, and it's not as good of a song anymore. They matter. It's there. Would you ever say the riffs don't matter? Like what notes the guitar plays and the riff doesn't matter? Of course not. So that's my thought on that. Carrie Jones, you are vile, man. Carrie Jones, why are you here? If you hate Warbringer, why are you here in the Warbringer chat? That's what always. I've never done that in my life, where I'm like, I'll show up in this band I hate's chat to go tell them that I hate them. Oh shit, what did I do to you? um, so, Loping Camshaft. No, there's no vegans right now. Though Adam eats mostly vegetarian. I had a vegetarian dinner last night. So no one's vegan. John Locks was vegetarian for a good minute while we were on tour in South America. That was very difficult for him, I remember. Um, but yeah, so no one's vegan right now. We eat some meats, but I've been trying to kind of keep it at like a reasonable level. I think what they call the standard diet of like meat multiple times a day, that's not good for people or the world really. So as much as I enjoy grilling a steak or whatever, I've been trying to keep it more moderate and reasonable and have a lot of my meals be without any of that. So not vegan, but part ways to vegetarian sometimes, I guess. There you go. Open to the idea, and I understand your logic for why you would be. I certainly wouldn't hold that against you or give you any shit for it. Um, Hector Erden, glad you love the record. Jane, are you going to be a history professor? I hope so. If I can handle my master's and if I can get a job, and I'll need to do my PhD someday. That's more daunting. I'm more into the teaching than the research. So at a certain point, that becomes difficult because I'm more about communicating these ideas to a mass audience is what I'd hope to do, or to as many people as will listen. Uh, Burning Witches, you asked about them earlier, Nahim. This is I am aware of them. They're pretty cool. Um, uh, Power Unsurpassed, Remain Violent are politically charged. Well, somewhat, yeah. Remain Violent. You'll see on the shirt. Those are riot cops from Ferguson, Missouri, which is like the founding event in Black Lives Matter. So that was a big one, And just you'll see though how I handle the lyric. It's not. There's different ways to write about this. There's on the nose, and then there's sort of around it. I tend to do the second, where it's about the feeling or the idea rather than the event itself. So you'll see this in kind of everything I do. Power Unsurpassed is sort of about like the modern authoritarian rhetoric and leaders, whether we're talking Kim Jong Un, Xi Jinping, Putin, or even some of the shit Donald Trump said. Which I got the chorus line from him. Thank you very much, Donald Trump, for saying something really scary on the international stage. Which some people think works diplomatically. I've seen that argument, so but there's the song. Left wing metal is not that unusual. I know, actually, I think Power Trip's on that side, very like explicitly, like we are on the left. I wouldn't say I'm like so much explicitly on the left per se. I'd say right now I am, actually, because I think the economy's fucked. But I just think that really that we're too far on the right and have been for too long in America. I think that that's the thing that's distorting it. So I think if you're actually like basically I'm willing to see both sides reasonable guy, but one of the sides isn't being reasonable, then you can't really have that perspective anymore. That's normally where I would be, but I just think that we've had sort of a derailment of the Republican Party in America that happened a while ago, where it doesn't serve its own base and it's lying to its own base now. And I think the Democrats, sadly, are barely a better alternative because neoliberalism isn't like working for the bulk of people. So there's some of the basic stuff, I think. That doesn't mean that I'm a super hard leftist. I just think that status quo is insufficient for the modern day right now, in America at least. I can't speak as well to other places, but I get the impression that it's not the only place, and that global capitalism is sort of reaching a certain stage where it's kind of giving us some of the same problems we had in the Gilded Age back in, say, the 1890s, and that has to do with the deregulation that it was done starting, with like the likes of Reagan and Thatcher in the 80s. So that's what I know about that. I've moved over here to keep my wife's laptop battery going, so you get to see a different part of my house. Uh, yeah. All right. So there we go. That's there we go. On the politically charged nature of this. You know what song's actually politically charged? Towers of the Serpent. That's a big allegory about wealth inequality. Because I was watching Conan the Barbarian, you know, the towers of Set, Thulsa Doom's, you know, who's trying to be a demigod. And then I was looking at some of the bank towers in downtown LA, and I was just like, Towers of the Serpent! And there's the song, you know. So that one very much is an allegory about that. Like, what are you trying to do by amassing 100+ billion? Be God? You know, are you trying to be fucking Thulsa, some modern Thulsa Doom here? You know, so I got to quote my Thulsa Doom a lot in there, and it's about the power of flesh in Conan is about the control of others as the ultimate ends. And I think that Conan's actually a deeply philosophical movie. So I think I was kind of tagging that Thulsa Doom motive to modern billionaires. That's what Towers of the Serpent is as a lyric. I don't know if anyone gets that, but the alternative is to write in a very more like on the nose way. And there's people out there putting out albums that take that angle in thrash metal. So which one or which angle you like better is up to you. You can tell what side I'm on based on how I write. Um, Carlos the Great Donor. Yep, cool. Glad you saw him on Grasspot. This has been a sweet show. Good to be on. Blake, I would love to play in the UK for you and all other people in the UK. Emily Harris, how do I feel about the virus and the state of the world and how people respond? Um, Pretty wacky. It's pretty strange. I haven't seen anything like this in my life before. I've been at home for like a month and a half straight. That's unusual. I've never done that before. Been or had to anyway. Um, I think the U.S. response. It's well documented that it wasn't good. You look at it seems like a country like Germany was disproportionately not affected. I heard even Mexico had vastly superior measures to the United States in terms of how early they put in some of the screenings. You've had countries, I think Britain talked about and Sweden did the let's just let everyone get infected thing. As far as I know, which I'm not like reading about this every day, as far as I know, that didn't work so well. Um, so that's some of what I know. It's going to be an interesting change in world geopolitical trends because there's going to be uh, something that was already, I think, forming with some of these current populist parties throughout the world is kind of an anti-globalist, anti-neoliberal trend. So that's going to be a big shift. Uh, that's going to be a break from all other history post like 1991 or so. So I kind of hope that that happens in some way because I think that there's some problems with like neoliberal global capitalism and you know the fact that some of the way the supply chains are in coronavirus is now under criticism as a result of that. By the way, I'll call it my attention. I'm wearing a Caesar World Tour T-shirt here that has all of his battles as tour dates. I just have to tell you guys that. Uh, Hell, okay, going down the comments more. I'm still 40 minutes behind, by the way. It's too many comments, and you guys are too great. Thank you. Um, Sworn to the okay. So Emily Harris, I know who you are, Emily Harris. You live in Atlanta and you come to our shows. You Thanks for the thought-provoking question. I did my best to answer it as non-stupid as I can. And also, conspiracy theories are bullshit, guys. Strategic interests. Look at strategic interests, and it's not a conspiracy. It's not a deep state. It's naked self-interest, and it's right there in front of you. There's no lizard reptile people pulling the strings. It's actually people just doing self-interest. That's all it is. Okay. So just throwing that out there. Naked self-interest can be just as nasty, though. Let me tell you, it's nasty stuff. That's what Woe to the Vanquished is about. Sworn to the Bag. Am I still friends with Locks? We don't talk often, but yeah, we're on friendly terms. We don't hate each other or anything. I actively really like the guy. He's a creative and artistic soul, and an intelligent guy. So I have a lot that I bond with Locks over and always have, and that's why we made this band. So, nothing but love for that guy. And was getting a degree in like environmental science, and I think he might be on the tail end of that right now. Carrie Jones, hardcore dance is way better than metal. Carrie Jones at the Art of Being Wrong here. I'm sorry, that's factually incorrect, sir. Read a damn book. Hector Erden, Defiance of Fate. What a tune. thank you. We took some risks with that one. I think it paid off. I think people really enjoyed the way that one came out. Let's see. Isn't it funny how coronavirus started after Slayer retired? Well, yeah. And if you want to do it longer, after Schuldner, Dio, and Corthon died too. If you want to take and Dimebag, if you want to take the long view of that, and Jeff Hanneman, shit. After those guys died, and time elapsed. Coronavirus. It's correlation. The human mind does that though. It's a funny thing, and I'm always on watch for my own brain doing that. I try to be like with my logic as I'm able to in my fallible mortal shell. Uh, so anyway, Thrasher's Kill. Yeah, it's funny. A lot of things are funny when you look at them that way. But it's also our subjective bias. So you got to be like, you got to A, consider that, and then B, not consider that, and then take kind of the middle results of that. That's my thinking on when my thought gives me those kind of outcomes. There you go. Journey inside the brain. Um, I cannot read Russian. I wish I could, because I wish I could see what you're saying there, sir. I need to learn Russian someday because I'm really fascinated by Russia. Um, Hector and Defiance of Fate. Yeah, Defiance of Fate is amazing. Yeah, fuck yeah. Um, how do you start a band? Because I can't find anyone. Well, you have to find people. That's the first step. And to some extent, you have to find people and then forge them into being what they need to be, and that includes yourself. It's not, you're never going to find like a fully formed professional band in the genre of music you want to play. You have to get people to believe in a vision of what's going to be special and unique about you. How are you going to do it? That's going to make worth the time, effort, to do all of it. And that involves some leadership, and you need to persuade people onto your cause. And so it has a lot to do with that. And you have to actually have that vision, because otherwise, if you don't, people will see that. So it's there you go. It's about that. It's about drive and leadership in those ways. You got to make other people see what you see could be before it's there, and then they'll grow into the roles they need to. And if they don't, you have to get rid of them and get people that will. That's my experience. Um, Edwin, you got this. Good vibes. Let's see some cats. Do I have my cat? Let's see. Do I have? I think our cats might be outside. Yeah, I don't have Fatsy Klein. If you saw the Reddit Ask Me Anything, you'll see a picture of Fatsy Klein, who's the best cat in the world, and she's a big rumbling loaf. And we also have a smaller cat called Zushka, who's in big trouble because she peed on the bed. And it was like while I was asleep last night. I'd gotten into bed at like 2:30 a.m. and just right in between my feet. And, oh, she's on my shit list right now, but she's normally very good. Yeah, well, that's why there's not a comforter on the bed right there. That's why it's a random blanket. The comforter is done, alas. Um, Cool. Handle, I'm glad that you like Crush Beneath the Tracks. That one was one that I perhaps underestimated when we put it on the record. Now that like the response is out, people really seem to like that one, and I'm really glad. It's a total banger, I think. It's very much in the demo hand. It's somewhere in the range between Epidemic of Violence and like Chaos AD or something. It's somewhere between those things is how I see it. And I think it came out a pretty catchy song. And that one's actually about kind of the current state of the world. It's an allegory for technological change. That's what the tracks are, because you didn't choose if you wanted this kind of communication, or the fact that this is probably recorded whether we want it or not. And that now they're going to tell you, certain targeted ads are going to appear on you based on what was said here somehow, and all of that. That's all real. No one asked for any of that. And job displacement due to automation is going to happen. No one asked for any of that. So those are the tracks, if you will. That's what I'm talking about in that song. And Carlos's riff there is just a straight banger, and it's crushing. So again, riff to lyric, the riff crushes, so the word we use is crush. And I like that kind of correlation. I think it makes it more visceral and makes the imagery better. Bill Metal, fuck yeah, good last name, Bill Metal. Weapons of Tomorrow, you guys are cool. You like Weapons of Tomorrow? That's cool. How do you keep your voice intact with that heavy takes on your heavy music? It's tough to do the vocals, but I've been doing it forever. As you can hear, I got kind of a scratchy voice anyway, and so I warm up. I drink tea. I don't drink on tour really at all, and I smoke less weed on tour than I normally do. And those are some things. I try to exercise and stretch and all of that. So those are some things I do to keep my voice intact. Otherwise, though, it's a lot of practice, and my voice is very used to making those sounds. There's no real other way I can tell it to you. I didn't do any. It's hard for me to describe the way the body moves to make sounds, but I can tell you that it's I've done a little bit of vocal training, but I wouldn't say I'm like an especially trained vocalist. It's mostly I'm an experienced vocalist, and that's a different thing. um Gabor, I love Chase Becker solos too. That guy was born to play lead guitar. He is fantastic. um Paulo Placido, Portugal, Lisbon, Portugal is beautiful, and I've been there a few times. And I had some pretty darn like good salty Portuguese food at a nearby restaurant that I really enjoyed. And it was like the saltiness and the kind of sea taste too. It was pretty unique and cool. I liked it. Greetings from New Zealand. I'd love to go to New Zealand. I've only been in your airport once. The one time we went to Australia. I'd love to go back to Australia in better circumstances than what happened last time, and I'd love to go to New Zealand too. All right. Uh, John, listening to the best band from Portugal, you're gonna like Tarantula. Tarantulas scare the hell out of me. I do not like spiders, but the band, so it's an evil band name, therefore. Okay, I'll check it out. Thank you, Tarantula from Portugal. I'll check it out. Edward Hyde. So SLC. When people asking where we're gonna be, do you think I know? I wish I could tell you. I really wish I could answer your question, but it's coronavirus, man. We got dates in Europe in November, and that's like the soonest any booking agents or promoters are willing to put out there. And even then, like, there's like a minor question mark. Until they say coronavirus is over, there's gonna be a question mark over anyone's dates at any time until it goes back to the way it needs to be for there to be concerts. So yeah. Can we hear the rain of the microphone check? I think we're past that. I think I fixed the problem. So sorry. Um, I'd love to see Warbringer and Power Trip tour after this madness. Yeah, me too. That would be sweet. Any bands you feuded with? I think I answered that. Um, oh, we're back somewhere else. Okay. New comments. We're just going to scroll down a bit here because it seems like the comments went back up and they're showing me. Okay, Six Morgan Ballinger. What do you think of the new Havoc album? So these are our peers. So basically, I have a lot of respect for Havoc, and I think their album's good. I think they did a step up from their last record, and I think basically that they're some of the tightest and like most talented musicians in metal today. I think Pete Weber is one of the few guys in any band I would say like is that I'd personally put on the kind of level that I'd put our guy Carlos Cruz, who I have immense respect for. And Sanchez, Scruggs. I haven't met their new bassist Brand Bruce, but Nick, their previous bassist, was incredible. So they just have an all-star musical lineup, and that's really a strength that they play to on their records. And I really hope. I mean, not even hope. I know we're going to tour with Havoc. Hold on, I'm getting my damn phone charger out so this doesn't die on me. I know we're going to tour with Havoc sometime on this year. It would just be stupid not to. We're obvious peer bands. We have a lot of the same fan base, and I think the fans would fucking love it. So yeah, basically, I like them. I like their record, and I would like to do stuff with them. And I think that they're another band that's right there on the front lines of the new wave of thrash metal. So that's what I think about the new Havoc record. Let's as we get our plug together here, let's Eric Mendez, are you a Hyrax fan? Yes, and I got a cool story for you. Caden was when we played Japan about a year and a half ago. We were there with Testament and Exodus on. I forgot what the event was called, but it was sweet as fuck. Thrash Domination, that was it. Thrash Domination in Tokyo, and because of this, my wife went out because we got to go to Japan, so she came with, and her and I jetted off after Warbringer played the show. Most of Warbringer went home, and my wife and I stayed, and we spent 5 more days in Osaka, and then we went to Kyoto. While we were in Osaka, Hyrax and Razor were playing there, and so we went and we hung out backstage, and I brought a bottle of vodka from Exodus's backstage. Gary Holt handed me this bottle of vodka that they didn't drink, so I put it in my backpack, took it down to Osaka, passed it around with Razor and Hyrax, and Caton, him and his wife were together there, and they had 2 hotel rooms, but they stayed together in one. So they actually let my wife and I sleep in the empty hotel room, which was very kind of them. So we just took a train down to Osaka, and like that was our night there at a different thrash metal show. So that was a lot of fun. And Caden, I've known him for a while. He's been around in Los Angeles, and he's known about us since day one. We've played with them a number of times. Rich, nice. You've been a oh, cool. Thanks. I appreciate the encouragement on teaching. I'd love to do it, and I really like, explaining stuff that I've learned about because I get passionate about the stories and the ideas, and I like to talk about them. And I like to kind of walk people through the same mental process I went through when I was learning about it. That's kind of my approach. So I appreciate that, Rich, and I'm glad. I'm glad you like the gig. I hope to do more community college because I think you can get more in depth on stuff there. But actually, just a broad overview like high school style. I think more students could use that being done by someone with some real passion so that it sticks and they can actually put context in the world and they don't end up believing in like wild conspiracy bullshit because they can actually understand how the pieces fit together. Um, and it was probably Lich King. Okay, sure. They feuded with us. I don't know if we did anything. Sure, feud with us if you want. We'll just write songs. You can feud with our songs if you want to. Mina, do I like horror? Oddly enough, not really. I just find the plots are often predictable, and actually, jump scares really get me. The thing I find about horror movies is the scariest part is actually the soundtrack. It's just that silence to the kind of like loud, sudden noises they do that's so effective. And there's even horror movies that utilize false jump scares to like get you off your guard and everything. Uh, but often, like the story isn't that interesting, and it's like, oh, they're gonna go into the haunted house that's obviously terrifying, and then you kind of lose, when movies do stuff like that. I'm just like, blow me, so a lot of movies piss me off because of like the characters just not acting in a way that makes any sense, and it feels like the plot's like shoved together. So that's a lot of why I like reading nonfiction stories, because the plot's not put together that way. You don't actually know what's going to happen. So in a weird sense, for stuff that actually already happened, you don't know what's going to happen because it wasn't written to entertain you. It was written because it happens, So that's kind of been my bent for stories I'm interested in lately. I'm getting sick of what Hollywood writers do in pretty much any genre because I'm onto them and I see all their tricks and I'm bored of them. um, so The Golden Bough, that's a fantasy novel, I imagine, Alberta. Okay, cool. Trump Corp, stay violent. I see you commenting on the YouTube videos. Yeah, all right. We will stay violent. That's right. Um, as will the current day world order, because it's based on it's, even though we've managed to attain a rather peaceful world order, but beneath the hood, it's still based on raw power. So that's my thoughts there. All right. Emmy Blaster was blocked. I don't know why. I probably was being a fuck. Dang, there's a lot. Okay, there's Trump Corp. Okay, what's your take? Slaughter to prevail, taking YouTube by storm, but with their Demolisher video. Mark, I have no idea. I haven't heard about that. If it's taken by storm, I was out of the path of the storm. I do not know. Is it good? So tell Jayhawk Films to get to work. Jayhawk Films will get to do the documentary. Okay, and Fronty Facundo says, "Murder in the Front Row." That's a cool one. I don't know if the new wave of thrash has quite the gravitas of the old wave yet, but I think that hopefully in the future, after we put all these bands put out a few more albums and time has progressed a little more, I think that the importance of what bands like us were a part of will become, and what that has to do with the continuing story of metal as an art form, I think that'll become a thing. I don't think it's quite clear what its historical relevance or important is, the new wave of thrash as an artistic movement. But I was actually when we put out the record, my wife we took some LSD that night, and I tripped out for like 8 hours on the meaning of and relevance of modern metal and the new wave of thrash and as an artistic movement and my own role in it. So I had all kinds of thoughts on that shit, and I think it's actually crystallizing to be something by this point in time. Thoughts on the Star Striker? Thoughts on the new Toxic Holocaust record? Well, basically, that band's solid as fuck. They've been doing what they do. I think their new record is pretty strong, and it pretty much is like that's more or less what I'd say about all their records. Really, Joel knows how to write a mean riff, and he's got a nasty vocal, and it's always just kept bare bones, stripped down, and vicious. So and he's got his aesthetic going. I like that guy personally. I like what he does. Um, Mina, I'd rather die than treat others like shit. I've spent my life extremely sad and lonely, and that taught me the value of kindness. I'd rather show others the love and kindness I would want. I think that's entirely valid, Mina. I think you're right, and I think that that's sort of a couple Warbringer songs actually, like Divinity of Flesh or Defiance of Fate, go into the question of legacy a little bit. I think that's ultimately a really powerful thing. Is you live through the mark you make on others, and that's going to matter more at the end of the day. Is are you basically good to people? And I think that that's something that we all got to try to live every day, because it's not in our nature to be good to people. It's not in our actual, what you might call, strategic interest to be nice to other people. It's better for us to take from them. Like, I was talking about in the Heart of Darkness thing. That's better for us if we just want to benefit our own lives. But that's only in a material sense. So I think that basically the goal of civilized society in the first place is to kind of fix or undo or mitigate this kind of like might makes right, law of the jungle thing that's basically true about the world. I think that's the goal of civilized society in a fundamental way. So I think you're very right, Mina. I absolutely agree with you. Um, okay, Mark. Yeah, we got scheduled to Guatemala. Not every show works out. Uh, I hope to be there in the near future. Go to Russia, dude. Russia is a country I've never been to, and I read so much about Russia. It's one of my favorite places to look at in the world. The history of the place is fascinating. The place fascinates me. The culture fascinates me. I like a lot of food and stuff. So like it's just interesting. Uh, so yeah, that's I would love to see Russia personally, and I don't think it's like the easiest place in the world to get into right now, but I hope to go there. The closest I've been is I was in the Ukraine at a place called Simferopol in 2008 or 2009, I believe. Uh, okay. Trump Corp is in Switzerland. That's not where I'd expect that user to be, but can't wait to see you there, Trump Corp. Hell yeah. Um, Metal has to evolve or it dies. Mark Milani. I think that's true. I think there's a tightrope it's got to walk, because it has to evolve while still being itself, or it's not metal anymore, right? So I think a lot of, like, say, post metal stuff, while it can be wonderful for what it is, doesn't quite scratch the same itch of like all the shit that we love about metal, like fucking metal. So that's not to say that these art forms shouldn't exist. They should. It's very interesting what a lot of people are doing with like post metal and like atmospheric metal, and like kind of metal instrumentation, doing different, like being pretty instead of brutal, or all, atmospheric instead of in your face, and all of this. But you also need evolution in the straight up metal variety. And so I think that that evolution for us is mostly in the way we see it, and our role in that is mostly in like new and interesting combinations of existing pure metal elements that haven't been combined before, because straight up metal is actually a really wide genre with a lot of different facets. So that's kind of our thoughts on that. But yeah, it has to change, it has to update. There has to be some reason for it to continue to exist as an artistic movement, or it's not even worth its own legacy, because when the original stuff that everyone loves was its own legitimate artistic legacy. And from day one, everyone was like, as if you could ever do that. And it's like, God damn it, we're going to try. We're going to try our best to make some, to change the music, to evolve it, and to do the best we can. Uh, yeah, Mina, I think a lot of people that are into metal are somehow dissatisfied with their relation to society. I guess they feel like they're left out, they're on the outsides, they don't agree with something it's doing fundamentally. I think metal speaks to all those things in a big way, because it's usually not music about satisfaction, contentment, and all of that. It's usually about the opposites and addressing those. And that's, I think, why people feel it so powerfully, because it addresses those deep root emotions. um Kim Winter, hope to see you guys again in London. Yeah, we'll be there. We'll be there. God damn it! Fuck coronavirus. We're gonna play metal. Toki Wartooth Warbringer rips. Hell yeah. Um, Hello, John Kevill, old school heavy metal channel. Neat. Uh, what do you think of higher? What do you, Mina? Would I ever choose teaching over Warbringer? No, I really hope the two can go together. Actually, I got an email after Weapons of Tomorrow came out from CSUN, the Distinguished Alumni Department, saying they heard about my work with Warbringer. I'm a distinguished alumni now, apparently. So the campus, a state university from the state of California, reached out to me, John Kevill, this guy in this band, for that. So I was very happy about that. So apparently, like once coronavirus is over, so I gotta wait. God knows how long. I'm gonna go and do that. I went and called the guy back and talked to him. So I hope to be able to kind of combine the two and use, be able to talk about some of the stuff I wrote about in songs and kind of link those and use my skills as a performer, as a teacher as well. So that's my hope and dream there. And also to have, I do have a bit of an audience with Warbringer that I wouldn't necessarily have if I was going in as just strictly an academic. So I'm going to try to bridge that gap. I'm not the best academic in the world or even all the way there. I'm a bachelor's degree, so it is what it is. But I was a good bachelor's student. I was that, at least. I got all like damn near A's in everything. Got the dean's lists, and I spoke to all my professors outside of classes. I was really into it during the time I was doing it. Meat and potatoes guy, yeah, can't go wrong. I have those a lot. Ronnie Facundo, I actually started watching that Oliver Stone documentary. I started watching the World War II one. I thought he did a pretty good job. He called attention to some of the economic stuff going on behind the hood, which is always a big deal. It's one of the unsexy things that's really important all the time to learn about. So I didn't get any further than that so far, but I have it. It's on Netflix. I might check it out. Right now, I've been on trying to understand basically the 20s and the 30s in China, Chiang Kai-shek, Mao Zedong, Sun Yat-sen, all of that kind of stuff. I've just been getting into that, so there's so much. I have a lot of questions left that I couldn't really tell you too great of a synopsis on it beyond a very basic level right now. But I got a book on order from someone called Rana Mitter about a modern British historian about the Chinese Civil War and Chiang Kai-shek versus Mao and what happens with the Japanese army in mainland China after they bombed Pearl Harbor. You never hear anything about that. They were sitting there for 4 more years. What happened? So I'm trying to figure that stuff out. Daniel, Brazil. I've never been to Brazil. I want to go to Brazil. I want to be there and play some fucking thrash metal for you guys. Get some promoters to bring our asses out there as soon as we can. My favorite fast food, Daniel Bruh, is probably In-N-Out Burger. Actually, it's not really fast food because they don't have a drive-through, but Fat Burger is even better. They have a burger where the patty has a lot of pepper in it, and they put a good deal of like mustard and pickle on it. And I really like the way they do mustard, onion, and pickle. It's like kind of sourish and peppery. I fucking love Fat Burger, so I'd have to go with Fat Burger. They got a great name too, Fat Burger. Yeah. So everyone, Damian Perez. No, Adam lives in Ventura. The rest of us, sorry, all live in and around the LA area. So we're Southern California dudes. When we started out, we were more up in Ventura County. I grew up there, and I moved into LA County maybe like 8-9 years ago. Sisville, thank you for no problem for the politics answer. Left and right, liberal, conservative had meant a lot of different things. One of the confusing things I learned is that what they call the neoliberals are often so often conservative, and because it's classical liberal, as in like Adam Smith, Wealth of Nations era economics, like classical European liberal in that context. In which case, liberal meant free trade and business, and not monarchical mercantilism. So that's what I understand about that. Is that's why neoliberal is a weird term, but basically both the left and the right today are both in favor of neoliberalism, and that's why you see so many people, just different flavors, and which businesses are paying you. That seems to be the main difference. And what's your rhetoric? The rhetoric's different. But that seems to like the actual left wingers got buried in the Democratic primaries both times, as far as I'm concerned. And I think the centrist neoliberals are going to like kind of eat that wing of the party, adopt some of their rhetoric, maybe do some token things towards some of the policies so they can maintain as much of the status quo as they can. And I think they're going to pull it off. So that bums me out. There's some more specific political thought for you. Thothamon is way more badass than Thulsa Doom. Well, fair enough. I don't know, James Earl Jones, man. Now they will know why they fear the night. that shit. Oh man, that's cool. The strength and power of flesh. Oh, dude, I don't know, man. I don't know, Nithimesis. It's tough to say there. Thothamon's pretty cool though. You gotta hand it to him. Like the novels and such are also quite fantastic. I have a special attachment to the movie, but certainly the novels, which present a very different Conan, are also well worth anyone's time. My daughter and Megan Carg, my daughter and I saw you guys in Sacramento and San Francisco. Can't thank you all enough for everything you do. We really bond over Warbringer. I'm glad that hey, mother-daughter bonding over my music that I'm screaming into a mic is not something I ever really envisioned myself seeing. But I mean, more and more I hear this kind of stuff, and it makes me really happy. So thank you very much, Megan Carg. I appreciate it. I'm glad your daughter likes the music too, and I'm glad you guys find something to enjoy together. That makes me really happy. Ultimately, I'm an entertainer, and I want people to get something out of my art if they can, out of our art, because it's five guys that go together to make this stuff. Sworn to the bag. Do you think elites snuffed the popularity of metal to start pushing more mind-numbing pop hip hop music to sedate the masses from the anarchistic lyrics of most metal bands? No, I think there's a simpler answer. So you ever heard of Occam's razor? The simplest explanation is most likely true. So the answer you gave is conspiratorial in nature, meaning that it would require a lot of shit to be planned to happen a certain way. That automatically makes it unlikely, in my view. So what I think is basically the lowest common denominator sells. People that figure that out, and the lowest common denominator shifts down as it sells more and more, and that changes the cultural standard. It changes the way like, okay, it's okay to be a 30-year-old adult, and if I'm like, what up, I can't even talk like this, but if I'm talking to you basically like a grown-up child, it's like totally normal, and I could be a really famous person doing that. So that's, I think, the result of years and years of that. And I think that yes, that this being a thing in culture, I don't think that it's like planned and conspired, but I do think that if I were running a multi-billion-dollar corporation, lobbying the government to keep the economy in favor of the few instead of the many, as we all know is happening, if I was that I would want the culture to be very much like it is today. So the shoe fits, but I think it was actually created that way organically. I think that the sad truth is that people in society chose this for themselves. I think they look at what they buy, look at what they choose to watch, look at what they choose to think about. And in that way, that's a similar critique of a democratic system that a guy like fucking Plato would have had. Basically, hey, you can't let the masses rule. They don't know what the fuck's going on. They don't care. They don't know. They'd rather watch this stupid shit and keep their heads in like, which Kardashian's the prettiest this week or whatever, based on who got the most recent surgery. That the cosmetic surgery that costs money that they now want. All of that. So I don't like the modern culture to a pretty high degree, but I don't think it's some conspiracy to keep metal out of the mainstream. I think metal, just by being basically opposed to that, is a niche thing by just there. So, because you sort of mark yourself off as opposed to regular society that way. John, you're a huge nerd, and we love it. Yeah, Tiger 131, Warsaw Rise, the Warsaw Uprising. That's a hell of a sad and fascinating piece of history right there. Jesus, to the gates of hell. Emily's Harris, I love you. Thank you. Sabaton, Warsaw. Okay. Do a tour with Savage Messiah. I'll do a tour with anyone, man. With these questions, come on. I'll do a tour with anyone at this point. I'd love to just play. Do you like my favorite ex-singer, Legion from Marduk? I don't know Marduk that well, to be honest. I couldn't give you a great assessment of him as a singer to answer your question there, Stormblast. I might have to check it out if he's your favorite black metal singer, because I have an interest in black metal vocals. I did a little of them myself on Defiance of Fate. Um, Peter Crow, we write music first sometimes and lyrics first sometimes. On those Science of Thrash documentaries we made that really go behind the album, you can see which songs were which and how in stages of who wrote what when. So that's pretty cool. And basically, we're willing to work both angles. Sometimes I have to write lyrics to a fully existing song. Sometimes we kind of forge them together, and sometimes we start from the lyrics and try to write music to them, like Firepower Kills or Glorious End. So it goes a lot of different ways. Mark Milani, what's your take on Isolation Festival that Century Media pulled together yesterday live? Well, shit, I don't know. Century Media is our old label. We put out 4 records on them. Hopefully it was cool. That's all I can say. I don't know. I wasn't doing that. Um, let's see. Mood Faris, what's drawn you to thrash metal in the first place? It's because you're tired with metal in your youth days. Yes, Mood Faris. I'm sorry if I'm saying your name wrong, sir. But basically, yes, it was like new metal had been popular, and then it was the dawn of like metal core, basically, at the time and place that we were coming out of. So we were very much a reaction against that. We were like long fucking hair, headbanging, guitar solos, and riffs. Not just O string with the eeny, not just the chun, 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 eeny, kind of breakdowns, but we're gonna have riffs with the notes in them. God damn it, So that's that was indeed what we were coming out of, a reaction to what existed. Blake Unwin, Crush Beneath the Tracks is the one you've been listening to most. I'm glad so. It's a real banger. John M., I saw you back in 2014 with Iced Earth, plays a Babylon tour in Athens, Greece. Athens was one of my favorite shows. I saw the Acropolis the next day. I spent a day in the city. I can't wait to go back to Athens. I loved it. It was amazing. I stood on top of the fucking Acropolis and looked towards Salamis, where Themistocles once sailed the fleet against the Persians. And I was like, I am in the land of the ancient gods, Oh, man, it was great. So metal library. Okay. Sorry, don't want to skip tracks. Bjorn says, has this virus provided you with inspiration in songwriting, given the global impact it's having? Not yet. I've gotten a few song ideas, but they're not about this virus. They're about different cruel shit from the past that more like distant past than I've been touching on, more like ancient times rather than modern, trenches and barbed wire shit. So that's kind of been what I've been thinking about. But maybe uh, it's kind of what everyone's talking about, and it's my instinct to not write about whatever that is. So, uh, we'll see. We'll see. Metal Library Collection. I'm not a big fan of thrash. I'm mostly into technical death metal, DSBM, and there are a few thrash bands I love: Revocation, Warbringer, Havoc, etc. Cool. I'm glad you like it. Whatever your flavor is, I hope you like ours. It's there's not. I don't really think by genres. Do I like a lot of death metal? Yes. Do I like the majority of death metal as a genre? Maybe not. There's a shitload of bands that I think are repetitive, but the stuff that's good I think is really good, and I love to get down with my like and all of that shit, So it's whatever is your main flavor of metal isn't really that important to me. There's bands, there's songs, there's records, and each of those deserves their own individual consideration. So thanks, and I'm glad you like. I'm glad we're one of the few thrash bands you do like Metal Library Collections. Oh shit, I'm sorry. Is there a chance to talk to you guys while on tour? I mean, before or after the concert, I'd love to have some back patch logo stuff signed. Yes, that's something we're pretty adamant about, is that we, unless we're sick or miserable, basically, we will make ourselves available as much as we're able, and usually we are able. Before and after shows, we're around. If you talk to us, we'll talk to you. Doesn't mean I'll sit there for an hour with every person. Obviously, I can't do that, but sometimes I will, So it's I very much we have this ethos. We treat our fans like people, like any other person. You talk to them, you give them the time of day. We'll take a picture, we'll sign a photo, and we'll do. We'll be happy to do it. Because we really appreciate you guys being there and supporting us, and we make ourselves available with our own time and our own will, and we're not gonna have just a shake my hand, take a picture, move along. I'll actually if you ask me or any of our guys a question, we'll actually try to give you a good answer. And pretty much what we're doing now. So that's how we try to treat our fans, because we respect them and we respect the support that they give us, and we know that we're nothing without our fans, and we know that we're fans ourselves. So yes, you can talk to us on the tour, and that's actually one of the best ways to do it. Bigger shows, it's harder to talk to us. Smaller shows, it's easier. There you go. Fire Mood Ferris here says Firepower Kills reminds me of Agent Orange, which to me kind of reminds me that you guys are heavily inspired by Teutonic thrash metal. Yeah, we're inspired by, like I said, the metal canon, classic metal in general, and the German thrash is absolutely a big part of that. Both the main three, and then some other ones, and just European thrash in general, shit like Artillery, or some of the like lesser known German thrash like Exhumer or Death Row or Mekong Delta or something. So we're know all of that to some degree or another, and that's all part of our palette when we're making new riffs and shit. Firepower Kills, to make the Teutonic comparison. Yes, you're right. That's actually, it is what we were specifically thinking when we were writing that song, is kind of some of the early German thrash, some of like the 1985 kind of shit, before the genre evolves too far. So Ronnie, thanks, brother. Okay, Ronnie Facunda, best new wave thrash band: Warbringer, Eruption from Slovenia, and Hazard from Canada. So let's see, check them out. Okay, Hazard from I've heard Hazard from Canada. I know them; they're pretty cool. I don't know Eruption from Slovenia. I got married in Slovenia. I love that place. Havoc's new album is Hearts. Yeah, it's pretty fucking cool. Allie, what's your favorite Melodeath band? So I think Adam and I mostly agree that like we tend to prefer the earlier era. I think Adam would probably answer In Flames, and I might answer At the Gates. I think the early Arch Enemy up to like around Wages of Sin too. I think they're still like creatively breaking a lot of ground there, and there's a lot of great melodies and stuff. So I tend to prefer the earlier era Melodeath, because I think it becomes a kind of more commercial sound as the genre progresses, and I like the early stuff where it's most riffy and extreme. That tends to be my view on melodic death genre. But I think there's a lot of times in Warbringer songs you get little bits of Melodeath in the riffs, such as Future Age is Gone or Divinity of Flesh. Thank you for your great participation with Spice Girls. Thanks. You're welcome. I must be Scary Spice, right? And Arch Enemy. I love Archspire. Sweet. Glad you like cool bands. Yeah. Fuck yeah, Metal Library Collection. I like metal. D Sanchez, yeah, I enjoy D Sanchez. He's a good guy. David Sanchez is a fun dude, and he was. We'd go eating McDonald's a lot on the last fucking tour. We didn't sit and talk about shit. He's a thoughtful dude, and I enjoy him quite a bit. Saw you guys in San Antonio and saw the. Yeah, I remember San Antonio. Carlos broke the fucking snare, and we had to restart Silhouettes. I remember that. Chris went. Yeah, see, that's what I mean. We're fucking shit up live. We do it like an old rock band. I wish you will someday sing better than Pamela Anderson. I don't know, man. I don't know. In my favorite memory of touring with Noah and Odick, Set Go. Yeah. That was a short-lived line in 2015, but yep, that was cool. We did. Will I do a collaboration with Jason Newsted? I don't know. I've never talked to Jason Newsted in my life, so it's hard for me to say. I listen to depressive, suicidal black metal. Well, I think the depressive music is fine. I enjoy a lot of that. Just when people are like suicidal in particular, as a guy who wrote a song like Unraveling, which is themed around that and the horror of it, just balance your mindset out. I think that can be it can be a good thing, and it can be a bad thing. I think the kind of like using music to wallow in those emotions, too much of it. I wouldn't want a whole band that does just that. I wouldn't want to be in it. I guess I wouldn't mind listening to it, but I wouldn't want to be in that band, I suppose. Dang, you guys are still rolling. I'm down to like 2 o'clock now, which is now only 25 minutes ago. There's Pam Anderson. Yeah, we do have a lot of Melodeath. I love horror, but current horror is pretty disappointing. I enjoy it more conceptually. We watched the Mina about horror. Tagging back to that, my wife and I, we watched this one, The Descent, the other day. I've seen that one before. That one's really fucking cool because it a unique setting and kind of a unique set of things. The ending where it's all a false dream and they're actually down below the mountains, way better though, because that was the first ending I saw the first time, and then this time she was like actually safe, and that was kind of weird. But I thought conceptually that was a cool one. I thought this one with this pretty silly name, the Babadook, had like a pretty creepy concept of like the monster being sort of like this living version of depression and psychosis that sits in your mind. That was cool. All the Game of Thrones got progressively more and more Hollywoodized. Yeah, it's because the damn books weren't written yet, and they made them anyway because consumer demand. That's where I'm like, fuck this. that was the point where they go past the author's story arc. I'm like, fuck you. You're not doing what you said you were doing anymore. Serial killer is walking. Yeah, Metal Library Collection. I got you. Those cheesy scenes where you know what's gonna happen. Megan Karg, what Hogwarts house? I don't know. I might be a Gryffindor. I'm kind of sometimes a straight up like keep your chin up and keep doing it. In some ways. In other ways, I'm a Slytherin. I'm crafty and evil. I don't know though. I did read all the Harry Potter books when I was growing up, but I haven't like touched any of that stuff for a very long time. But I remember it. And it's enjoyable, good fantasy. I think it's pretty fun. Legion is the best singer on earth. Oh, it's not me. Bummer. It's not Pam. No, it's Pamela Anderson. Did you hear that other person? Pamela Anderson singing the song of boobies in the 90s. What's your inspiration for outer reaches? I got Star Wars vibes mixed with dark mystery. So that one, basically, we didn't have a lyrical theme for that one. And Carlos was like, hey, man, not everything needs to be this thought out fucking story. And I'm like, yes, it does. That's what I do. That's what makes me unique. So I came up with one. And basically, I just got this image of like space and like through some of the more melodic tremolo riffs in that song. I got this idea of like blasting off through space, and then the middle riff, I was like, that's like if you get sucked into a black hole. So I just wrote. This is one where the riffs came first and the lyrics followed, and the lyrical idea was just written based on the sound of the riffs. That's what it was. So it's not based on any existing sci-fi so much as like some sci-fi concepts in general, like the idea of leaving Earth and trying to see what's on the other side of the black hole. And there's a touch of almost, you might even say environmentalism or something there, because in Outer Reaches, the Earth they're trying to leave is dying because of science. And that's all I told you in the song, but I think that tells you plenty. Uh, when are you going to do a One Teen Alive video? I don't know, man. I don't know what that is. Lee Johnson, what's your favorite old school crossover band? It's between DRI and the Cro-Mags. I think that's my answer there. Oblivion. Like Hunter Seeker. I've been trying to Halford that one out. Oblivion. Check Swatch. Hunter Seeker. Been doing that live. Why do I like Avril Lavigne so much? Because she was a skater boy, and she said, "See you later, boy." He wasn't good enough for her, Oh, geez, what a story. The Golden Bough is actually a study of religion with historical and social structure context, not a fantasy novel. Thank you, Alberto. Okay, that sounds cool too. I got too much shit to read on my plate right now. I'm churning through some stuff at the moment. Dark Angel is an influence. Yes, I fucking love Dark Angel. Why do you say that Lady Gaga is the most Why do people come here and ask this stuff? Actually, Lady Gaga writes her own songs, and I think she's a pretty good songwriter. So, I actually prefer what she does over a lot of what's out there, because it's actually written by her and probably reflects something about her real personality. So, even though indeed it's catchy radio pop, I appreciate how it wasn't written by a guy in a boardroom. I appreciate that about Lady Gaga. So I will speak out in her praise in that regard. She's willing to be her own weird, and yeah. so I don't mind her as much as many of the others, actually. Adam really likes her, believe it or not. Adam Carroll, Mr. Evil Black Metal. Lofty Jungle, yeah. When will I come to Portugal? Raquel, I don't know, but you're not the first to ask here. I don't know where I'm going anywhere, really, except the European dates that are currently announced. That's all I can say. When's the moment you knew you wanted to major in history? Probably a while ago, but I never did a major after high school because I did Warbringer. So it was kind of after Empire's collapse when the band fell apart that I really had the time to do it, and I felt like I needed to develop some other skills so I wasn't so dependent on other people being in a band with me, basically. Uh, yeah. And being on happiness, yeah, you're absolutely right. It's a thing you gotta learn. It's a mentality about accepting the world. You see the world that is. You can't live in the world you wish would be, or you'll be miserable the whole time, no matter what that is, because you'll never actually live there. You have to live in the world that is and accept it. And that doesn't mean you just and still try to make your life better. So you have to at one point hand accept the life you're in, and the other try to reach the one you dream of. But you got to be okay with A first before you can ever hope for B, I think. Um, when are you going to do a live quarantine video? I think they're actually talking about where some of the players are going to do that, and I think I might actually do some vocal demo stuff, which I've never really done before, so that might be fun. I'm loud as fuck. Melancholy black metal, like the band Cold World. Oh, I know Cold World. Metal Library Collections. Yeah, we listened to them. Blake from Vector was doing a Warbringer drum gig on the Iced Earth tour we did in Europe in 2014. The one we went to Athens on. And when we were driving out to Bucharest in Romania across like 6-8 hours of ice field, we were listening to stuff like Cold World, and it was a pretty good fit. Any less known new metal bands you can recommend? Honestly, I'm fucking old at this point. I'm in my 6th album, so I don't even have my pulse on the scene. Carlos tells me some good stuff that's coming out though. Stuff like there's some like really trebly, like reverb heavy thrash, like Condor and Vulture coming out of Europe right now. That's pretty heavy and very much in the old like early Teutonic thrash tradition, like more so than even the Warbringer songs that lean towards that style. Where they're going all in on that, and it's pretty cool. And they have the really wild vocals. Why Sabaton is better band than yours? I don't know, because you like them more. I don't have friends, and people hate me because I'm a metalhead. I feel trapped in this world. I love metal, and I don't even want to exist. Metal saved my life. Yeah, I mean, everyone feels that way sometimes. Metal's a art form, and it's expressive, and it's great for that. But I think it speaks to a lot of those negative feelings and can help you deal with it. I deal with that shit myself. You got to find some kind of happiness in the life you're actually in. I think very often even my career in the band is very disappointing to me because I'm not able to do all the things in my life I'd like to do, and I feel as if I'm a failure. Even when putting out my 6th record and people saying all the nice stuff they're saying, I still feel that way. So nobody's alone in this. You got people that are way more successful and famous than me, like guys like Chris Cornell or Chester Bennington recently, and much more famous bands than Warbringer that off themselves, and it's really tragic. And it tells you though that it's not so much about where you actually are, because those guys, how much more famous could you fucking get in the world of rock, of modern rock, and they're obviously very successful. So it's like, why becomes the question, and it's an inner thing, is what that tells me. So I actually, Defiance of Fate is a song about sort of feeling that hopelessness, and then overcoming it. And then Unraveling is about a song of just like delving into that hopelessness, and it follows after the hopeful one to be crushing and horrible, because that's kind of what we do. So there's this kind of theme, this stuff I think about a lot, and that affects me as well, and I think most people, if we're honest with ourselves. I agree. Metal has started to evolve. Yeah. Thank you. I agree. Yep. Mark, what you said. Mark Milani at 209. That's where I'm at right now. Do you have any concerns about Warbringer and teaching mixing? No, not really, because you can kind of hopefully section them off, and touring the best seasons of the summer, which hopefully I can avoid teaching then, and tour, and I can maybe do a cycle like that. As we go into like 7th, 8th record, we probably won't be doing like such an active cycle where year after year it's just hammering it, unless the band's really successful, in which case I'll just do that. So and I'll do the teaching later. I'm not going to lose my interest in this stuff anytime soon. Hey John, it's Gavin. Hey Gavin. Hey Moore. Congrats on an amazing record. At work right now, so I'll have to check on this chat later. Hope to see you on the road soon. I'm sure you'll see me at 5 to 7 shows. Fuck yeah, Gavin. Awesome. I exist to be a metalhead. Well, I exist to be a metalhead. I exist for a lot more than that. I'm a friend, a husband, a brother, all these different things. My enjoyment of this art form is one of many aspects to my personality. It's one that's important to me, but it's far from the only one. I'm a metalhead, but I'm a lot of other shit too. So that's how I see myself, and I don't want to. I don't want to. I think part of being a metalhead is that you're not willing to just like accept any one stamp. You're like, you're gonna really raise your fist to the sky and kind of scream to the uncaring gods in heavens your own existence, and then you'll die as a mortal being and billions of others will live, and but you fucking did it. You didn't go silently into the dark, as I say. That's what metal's about to me. So yeah, there you go. Please, I need help. We're at small school, 300 students, Zarcy says, and I can't find one single soul who has metal in his or her blood. Well, you got to tell them what you feel about it. Not, you losers, you should already know this shit, but here's what I find inspiring about this. Here's what I think that a person can get out of this art. I think if we as metalheads can't answer those questions for people that aren't, then that's we can't speak to the legitimacy of our favorite art form based purely on like, oh, you wouldn't get it, you're not one of us. It can't be like that. It needs to be, this is a legitimate art, you'd listen to it for these reasons because you feel this way and it speaks to this part of the human condition. Start thinking about metal to your friend and talking to your friends like on those terms, because you believe it's legitimate art. You don't think it's just a bunch of loud screaming bullshit. It's not. So I think being able to speak to others about it that way gets them to see it more how you see it. And I think that's the way to do it, and to kind of give people the best chance they can to like actually appreciate and enjoy this stuff. Um, biggest musical inspiration, I've been saying, but stuff like Maiden or Bathory for the epic scope. I love those two in particular. I've been saying that since forever, but I'd be a liar if my answer changed. Okay. Okay, there's some supportive people talking nice to other people in the chat. That's great. I love you guys. You're fantastic. Will you come to Slovenia? Yeah, I'd love to go to Slovenia again, Zarcy. I love Slovenia. It's amazing. Long live Brazil. Yeah, Brazil, man. Pardon me. Yeah, I was addressing you, Mina. I think I was. Um, Dang, you guys are getting into your personal stuff here. Well, I'm glad you're finding support. And honestly, it's fine to be open with this stuff. I think I am in songs. My own emotional and personal failings are in these songs, and my own fears and doubts. And I think that's why people connect to lyrics and think the lyrics are worth a damn. It's not me trying to say who I wish I was. It's like who I sometimes wish I wasn't, but am. That's often, I think, a more powerful thing. But there's also who you wish you could be, and you've got to think about that too. Why is okay, this guy here is just fucking not a very clever troll, honestly. If I'm gonna attract trolls, like, give me some clever shit. I can get down with that. But come on, this is out of a can bullshit you're doing here. Why is Kim Kardashian your girlfriend? Fuck you, dude. If you're gonna troll, be clever. Like, otherwise, just get the fuck out the building. If you're gonna troll, at least be clever. What do you think of us Native Americans? Well, I tend to not have any like set opinion about like a vast cultural group that includes millions of individuals. But I've met a number. I think on a grand historical scale, it's quite unjust what happened to the Native Americans in the entire North and South American continent, if you want to look at it that way. And even though Heart of Darkness, a song like that, is set in Africa, you could very easily transplant a lot of those same themes to this other continent. And I try to write kind of vaguely so that you can do that. But anyway, I find in a lot of places that actually a lot of Native American people, especially in the Southwest United States, seem to really like Warbringer. And I kind of wonder to myself if that's because Warbringer is kind of a pissed off towards the system in a song like Remain Violent or something, and people that feel wronged by the system might love that kind of music as a result. So I have wondered if there's like a connection there, because we do seem to see from various groups of Native Americans across the Southwest United States a lot of fucking support at Warbringer shows, and a real passion for the music. So that's my experiences with meeting a bunch of different people throughout the United States. But whenever people say, what do you think about massive cultural group, I'm like, oh man, I don't know. I'm sure some are great and some are assholes, you know. And I think if you're honest, that's like any large group, whether metalheads or this, that, any age group, boomers or millennials, people talk a lot like that now. It's like you're gonna find the whole gamut in any fucking group you can name, unless it's a really, really small group, basically. Botched is that stupid cause. Okay, yeah, I'm sure it is. Oh, you read the. Okay, the 8 pieces of military history that fans should know about. I'm glad you read the article. I had fun doing that. That was me shooting from the hip. I didn't really know I was doing one like that, so I could probably do better if I had time to like sit and write the article myself. It would probably sound a little less colloquial, but I think there's tons, dude. I was just learning about the Imjin War, which is the Japanese invasion of Korea in 1592. So we're talking like samurais and ashigaru and old sailing ships made out of wood, early cannons from the Korean side, and some like flintlock arquebus from the Japanese. There's this pretty sweet movie my wife and I watched called Admiral Roaring Currents that's a modern depiction of one of the famous battles from this war where the Korean fleet pulls off a really miraculous defense where they have 13 ships against like 440 or something. Now their ships are better and have cannons, but it's still an enormous numbers disadvantage. And the Admiral Yi who's a famous guy. He's got like the Horatio Nelson Tower in Seoul, I think. He manages to brilliantly use the currents and his limit and the topography of the straits to bottle up the Japanese fleet and win, pull a close win. So that's really cool. And I didn't know about that at the time I wrote that article you referred to. So I might have said that because that story really impressed me. And I've been reading a couple things about that period in general, because different battles and different times are like. It's like a better movie than what you're going to see on the screen, what you can put together in your head when you read facts of what people actually fucking did. If you got some imagination, that's a way better movie than you're going to see. And sometimes the movies that are made are a nice, like, imagination aid almost, is how I see it. Because they do end up Hollywoodized, even the good ones. What do I do? But Withering Existence. This troll don't understand English. Okay, yeah, I guess not. What do I do besides Warbringer? Well, I'm largely a house husband to my wife, who holds down the ship and allows me to continue this in a lot of ways. I cook a lot. I've gotten pretty darn good at it. Homemade meals, healthy ingredients, different. I do a lot of Mexican, some Polish types, and like Slavic type food, as well as I've been doing, working on some basic Asian cooking, which I can do a couple things pretty darn well: broccoli beef and chow mein on the outdoor grill. So a lot of that. Then basically I do some writing, some study and reading. But recently I've been kind of in limbo. I've mostly been doing press for Warbringer, to be honest, almost every day. That's been the main thing I've done during quarantine. But I'm supposed to be on tour right now. That's what I'm supposed to be doing. Sisyphil says, yeah, Isandlwana and Rourke's Drift are really fascinating. If you guys haven't seen that movie Zulu, it's in the 60s and it's from the British perspective, but it's a really incredible film. So that's a pretty great one. But those are some. I tend to not write so much about like certain events per se. Like I say, it's not like one. It's rarely one thing. I think Black Hand is like the most specific it ever gets. Which so I don't know if I do those in particular because songs exist on that. But I'm interested in that story and just the Zulu Kingdom in general is really interesting to me. I've done some reading on them. So the guy, he reveals why he's trolling me. Why am I so hypocritical about other countries? So here, I'll address this. To anyone from the Yugoslav world, I'd imagine, you might wonder, why the fuck is this guy saying Gavrilo Princip's a terrorist? Well, okay. So the song is one angle. And honestly, here, I'll tell you this. I think Gavrilo Princip, do I agree with his goals of removing the yoke of the Austro-Hungarian monarchy in 1914? Yeah, I think he's basically right. I just think shooting like a wife and her husband isn't really a great way to do it. And if you want to tell me that's not a terrorist activity, well, you haven't read the definition of a terrorist activity then. I think that if you look at a lot of the political assassinations in that period, there's a weird kind of irony to them. Like if you compare the assassination of Franz Ferdinand to that of the Tsar of Russia, Alexander II, that there's an interesting similarity. Tsar Alexander the second is the guy who liberated the serfs in Russia, yet he gets murdered. And the next czar is much more autocratic, and that leads to the collapse of the dynasty as the next two czars continue that, and they don't do any of the reforms that the guy who they killed would have done. Now, Franz Ferdinand has a shade of that too. Franz Ferdinand's interesting because he's actually racist. He hates the Slavs. He considers them subhuman, so he's not very cool in that way. But he also knows that his empire, the Austro-Hungarian monarchy, is kind of a little shaky at the time, and he needs more support from the ethnic minorities within the empire. So he's actually going to give the Slavs more rights, even though he personally regards them as subhuman and hates them, because he thinks it's a good political move for his empire that he's going to inherit. So that's actually why Franz Ferdinand has to die, because if the Black Hand gets Franz Ferdinand killed, if Franz Ferdinand inherits the Austrian throne and puts these policies in place, then the hardcore Serbian nationalists and the Black Hand are going to have a much harder time convincing people that this fight against an oppressor is a fight they need to have. And that's why Franz Ferdinand's got to die, because he's actually going to put in policies that make a lot of Slavs in the Austro-Hungarian monarchy better. That's why he needs to die. So if you're the Black Hand, and that's why they send Princip and co. So if you want to talk about so hypocritical in other countries, I didn't say I would be hypocritical if I said like, oh, and they're so terrible and the United States are angels. I never said that second part. I'm pretty much cynical and bitter and morbid in every single thing I talk about anywhere in the world. You never hear a happy story from me. So you can't say I'm hypocritical. You blow that out your goddamn ass, person who's trolling me. You know, you blow it out your ass. You don't even like. Did you know that stuff about Franz? Did you know that he was trying to do this and that's why he had to die? You know, I was digging this straight out of the Sleepwalkers basically, and what you learn is that the Black Hand is okay. The aims of Gavrila Princip, the 19-year-old, aren't the same thing as the Black Hand, the paramilitary body who's willing to send a 19-year-old to go and shoot someone and die in prison for their cause. So I'm thinking about it from that angle, and it's a talk between the listener as Princip or one of the other two assassins, and the speaker is the Black Hand. You know, why does the guy who runs the Black Hand is known as Apis? I'm sorry, I'm not amazing with the Cyrillic alphabet and Serbian names. You'll have to excuse my relative ignorance. But this guy Apis, he's the guy that sends them, and they are trained, they're equipped, everything. So I don't know what's inaccurate about the song. Like, people say that, and I'm like, do you know? This is the angle I'm writing it from. Now, if you want to say that Princip's a hero, uh, I can understand that angle. And actually, one of the things I'm into when I study history is to kind of look at all the moral angles. I like to look at your Mao, Hitler, Stalin regimes from their own perspective, because I think if you want to understand them, you need to do that. These are, of course, my ideological opponents, but I really wouldn't want to live in any of those regimes. But I still think that their thought process and how they get to doing those awful things they do is really interesting. So that's kind of, if you want to criticize my historical interpretations in the song, you got to understand, first off, it's a 3-minute rock song. And if you want to have a real conversation with me about it, you have to actually talk to me. So there's my thoughts on that. But I've seen some, and I imagine with the Black Hand reaches out that was a thing I was going to hear. So there, I hope that addresses it for some of you guys. And yeah, I mean, one of the things I always think of when I think of the Franz Ferdinand assassination is, what the fuck did Sophie ever do to anyone? You know, Sophie, don't die. Think of the children. One of the really sad things about Franz and Sophie is, unlike a lot of the royal couples, they were actually a loving wife and husband. They had that aspect to their life too, regardless of what you could say about, Franz in the political sense. So that's just sad on a basic human level. I have a wife. I know I would be really sad if we both got shot in a car. I went and saw the car in Vienna. You can see it in the War Museum. You can see the fucking car he got shot on. You can see the man's uniform covered in his blood still, and you can see the gun that shot him all in the same room. That'll give you fucking chills if you have any idea of what that all did to the next century. Any idea of all the things that came out of that one 19-year-old's gun. If he had known, would he have done it? I think not. I think if you look at like just what happened in the next month, you would be like, oh my God, that's why it's so fascinating. So, yeah, that's why I'm so hypocritical when I talk about other countries there. Yeah, so So anyway, I've seen a few people telling me like your lyrics are bullshit and stuff. I'm like, no, they're not. I know they're not. I made sure that it's an angle, and I try to do. All my history lyrics are like from a perspective, from a human scenario. I'm not a book. I'm not a book in Warbringer, and Carlos would hate it if I was. So he actually keeps me around, and that's why I've developed this approach. Because personally, I don't like. I think like Sabaton came out with a record. Their first single on the Great War record was like 1918, the Great War rages on, and I'm like, I just straight up would never write a line like that ever, and I never have. Um, and that's if you love that approach, that's fine, and I have nothing against it. I'm glad that I really respect that band for doing what they do with history and stuff. But and just bringing it to people's attention. This is exciting. This is dramatic. This is cool. It is, so cool. Great job. I just choose to write about it in a much more thematic and allegorical and focused on the human experience rather than the event. And that's my theory of writing, and you might like that more or less. Um, so, creator, pleasure to kill. Yes. Artillery, you guys. Oh, I see you guys talking about some of the thrash stuff I was talking about earlier. Yeah, those ones are gems. I really think they deserve every bit as much credit as some of the more famous stuff out there. And it's how do I feel about? Oh, dude, I'd love to hear songs about ancient wars. So, Brandon, here's some of the ones I got. I want to do one about like the Christian conquest of Europe when they're like subduing the pagans. I'm talking early Middle Ages. You're like Clovis and Charlemagne, these kind of figures fighting the Saracens, fighting the pagans, and kind of from the perspective of an aristocratic knight whose view is like, kneel before me, peasants. I bring the sword. I am now your lord, and you can do some cool shit. Fuck, I have a rhyme in my head that ends with and on the first night I lay claim to your wife, like in like prima nocta. That was a thing. It's like the noble sort of that I want it to be that cruel and brutal voice of the aristocrat, basically saying like, because I have the sword and you don't, I am a greater breed than you. I am above you. You will bow at my feet. You will kneel before me. I bear the sword and the cross, and that's what I'm going to call it. So there's one that I'm thinking of doing if I can actually get that written. Another one I want to do is there's this guy Cuauhtemoc who was the last Aztec emperor. It wasn't Moctezuma. Moctezuma kind of gets captured by Cortez and starts being a puppet of the Spanish in the late phase of his reign. So Cuauhtemoc and the Aztec army basically say fuck this and take the throne themselves and then go down in flames, dying resisting the Spanish. And so I want to write a song about that idea of like, I know I'm the last of my people. I know my way of life is dying. This new way is coming. It's come to destroy us, but I'm going to go down with my dying breath, and kind of theming around the last of the Aztecs, or perhaps the Incas as well. I might put references to Pizarro as well as Cortez and that story as well in there, because it'll be about, again, the theme more than anything. But I have an idea for that too. Something I think I'm going to do is try to get out of Europe a little, because I study Europe the most. I write about them. They came up with industrial war, so they're really interesting in that way. But there's a lot of shit throughout the world, and it does, there's a lot of cool stuff to write songs about, and I need to keep moving to different places to keep myself interesting and relevant as an artist. How do I feel about Manowar? I love Manowar. I think that one has to be really critical of their work, and they've done a lot of shit that's flat out bad. But I think Eric Adams is up there with the best traditional metal singers ever. You could mention him in the same breath as Halford and Dickinson and Dio, I think, at his best. Like the song "Battle Hymn" or stuff like that. The verse on the end verse on "Hail and Kill." He's just legend. I think that they are way better when they're in epic mode than when they're in like writing about themselves or their own dicks or how hard they rock mode. I think that they're substantially better at that, and I think something that Manowar don't get any credit for is basically inspiring the Viking era of Bathory. If you listen to Hammerheart in particular, but Twilight of the Gods, Nordland, etc., and then compare it to other stuff that gets called Viking metal, which is kind of an imaginary genre to me, that's basically I think the Bathory records are closer to old like Sign of the Hammer Manowar, particularly a song like Mountains or something, more so than they are other bands that get called Viking metal, whether it's the folky direction or something a little heavier like Amon Amarth. Cool. So yeah, I love a lot of Manowar. I particularly like Hail to England and Sign of the Hammer, in that era of the band. But and I don't think they've ever made a perfect record. I think they got some whack songs on pretty much everything, but I think they have some brilliant songs on just about everything. And the first song that Warbringer ever did, with a very primal version of any lineup, was "Call to Arms" with the guy on a drum machine, like an electronic home drum kit, and I was trying to do that vocal line, which isn't an easy one. Eric Adams is a beast. So it was terrible. But that was my starting point in metal, was "Call to Arms" from 2001, Warriors of the World, which I still think is a really great song. I love how he's like, "Are you ready to fight?" And then they have the back and forth, "Yeah." It's just like, come on, that shit gets me pumped. So I think they really have their moments, and I think if they could kind of get their heads out of their own asses a bit, that they could be a far greater band, because they really do have this magic that they talk about themselves having all the time, and it would be better if they talk about it less and do it more. Um, yeah. So what else? I think we're gonna wrap up here, guys, pretty soon. There's been a long ass time on here. Um, oh wow, let's change this guy's mind, I guess. Okay. So love Warbringer. What do we get? What? Okay, Omar Flores asks an interesting question here. When do we get to have Warbringer on Sirius XM Liquid Metal? As far as I know, they never play us on there. They don't, and we've been around forever. But I don't really listen to radio much myself, so it's what I hear. But you can bother them. Whoever runs the programming on there doesn't seem to like us very much. So maybe you could tell them that they should. I don't know. I feel like a lot of people in the industry heard us on like our first album, and they're stuck on that view of us, and they have no idea what we're actually doing now. So I wonder if outlets like that, or sometimes festivals like Bloodstock or Download in the UK, have never invited us to play at all, and we can't play those for that reason. So there's a lot of stuff like that where there's a big chunk of the metal industry that doesn't seem to want to recognize or acknowledge Warbringer, and basically you, the fans, can tell them that they are silly for doing that and that they should. Because I think so. I think we are a legitimate, valid, and important part of today's metal scene. I think we really are. Um, yeah, and Omar, it's not like we aren't on a radio station or a festival because we don't want to be. We want to be everywhere. It's because they don't put us. That's the difference. Um, Warbringer, you have planted a seed. Cool. Um, can you tell him to watch a movie with me? Daisy Flores, watch a movie with your sister, Daisy Flores. It's probably cool. She wants you to see it for some reason. I don't know what movie it is. Hopefully it's not. Hopefully it's a good one. Fire Dragon CK, you're one of my favorite frontmen, modern thrash. Your energy and pronunciation is amazing. Thank you. I appreciate it on the pronunciation. I actually really try on that specifically. One of the things I think I bring to the table in thrash is doing the really rapid fire machine gun stuff with that kind of diction. One of the things that bugged me when I was getting into extreme metal is that they write all this evil and brutal shit, sometimes really cool lyrics, and you can't fucking hear it. And I think that if you're going to try to write evil, aggressive stuff, that it's well worth putting it in the songs. And now it's actually the song and not just like a disconnected piece of paper that you can read along with the song if you want. It's actually right there in your ears. Mark Milani, thank you. I appreciate it. Matt, will you ever switch to Protoss? God, no. Now maybe I think Protoss are cool as fuck though, but just they're so based on either timing attack or God Army, and that's basically their two strategies, and they're just the cheesiest race. I'm sorry, Zerg is the true way. Take the map, get money, win by macro, Soviet Union style. Do you have any tips for people to try and sing the way you do? I understand the value and uniqueness for one voice, but there are certain. So basically, I don't know why I sing the way I do. When I scream, that's the sound that comes out, and it is, I notice, different from other people's screaming sounds. I think a lot of people scream about the same, and I hate that, and it kills so many bands for me. You got the blah 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 blah, and you're gonna have lyrics like "This is blah 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 blah. This is blah 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 blah." And it's like there's a million guys that do that. And if you're like on the front end of that and you're the guy who started doing that, then cool, great, you've done a new thing. But it's like in the entire post 2000s, 9 out of 10 bands you see on any given stage, any given festival, the guy is like within a stone's throw of what I just did. And I'm like, why does everyone have the same damn singer? Metal used to have so many different voices of wacky vocal styles, everything from extreme to melodic and everything in between. So that's kind of my thought on. And I really wanted a voice that sounded different, and so you can see who my influences are. But I think that the different part, that's just me. That's me being me. That's what that is. So you be you and see what that's like, and don't try to be a thing. Be you and find what makes you you and go on that road. That's I think what I've done more and more over time. Everyone. So Vivictus here, cool name. Yeah, it's so. What bands do you so big four of modern thrash? Everyone loves to make a big four comparison, but commercially it can't be anything close to that because of just the state of where music is in general now. So I don't know. Hopefully we're on whatever list people make, but that's more for people in the comment sections than me. I just try to make the records, and I can't worry too much about where we are in the scene or something, or then I'm worrying about the wrong shit. So I can't do that. Lincoln, Nebraska. We had a fun show there last time. Lee Johnson. Uh, yeah, I hope to be able to do strong headlining tours too. It's we support if we get an opportunity, and we headline if we think. Gabor asks headlining tour or DVD release in near future. We would need a tour together, and we again coronavirus makes a giant question mark. So yeah, I don't know. Fuck you, dude, Lee Johnson. Fuck you too, man. Fuck you, buddy. Black Hand reaches out for you. No, I'm not switching to Protoss. Okay. Much love and respect to the indigenous communities, and just to every community, just to a basic level of love and respect to the humans living the human conditions. And then that's something that I believe in. Basic humanitarianism, I think, covers a lot of things. Where do you find this 8 pieces of history article? Shit, I don't know, Blake Unwin. Warbringer, 8 pieces history. John Kevill is, I talk about 8 battles, and the guy just got me on the phone. So I if I could go in there and rewrite it, I would do a better job. But I think I could do a better explanation probably with a little more detail. But the guy was interested, and he gave me a cool topic for an interview. Favorite Shrek movie? Oh, what history that you haven't written about do you want? I think I told you guys a bit of that a minute ago. Some more ancient stuff about how the world got what it is, and just like primal dominance and subjugation, kind of like the theme of the song Woe to the Vanquished, but in different times and contexts with different angles on that sort of theme. My favorite Shrek movie, the first one, when it was a new idea. Like most, hey, the Matrix was like the best example of that. Hey, we have this crazy, great new idea. What if everything that you thought was real wasn't real? Whoa, what a cool idea for a movie. They made it. It was great. Now, that movie, 2. You can see what a doomed concept that is from the outset. And that's why franchising sucks. Fuck franchising. Seriously. Come up with original stories, people. Anyway. What meal is my absolute favorite to cook? I'm really good at broccoli beef. I'm really enjoying broccoli beef in my outdoor walk, and carne asada fajitas. I really like those too, on the grill again. Lone survivor. Whoa. Emily Harris was killed in Afghanistan on a tour over there in 2005, and I found this out. It portrays humanity in a really fond way and moves me. One of the interesting things about the modern U.S. war effort is in serious contrast to most of the stuff I study, the Great War, World War II, etc., which the regular population has really got to participate in these wars on a big level. The modern U.S. war effort, which has been, kind of nonstop for about 19 years now, is carried out by a really, really small percentage of the population. And so I think a lot of the media works about this are appeal to basically this small segment, and the rest of the population can't relate. And I think that in some of the works I've seen that depict, Iraq and Afghanistan veterans and the world they come back to and what it feels like for them, a lot of times this distance is a thing they talk about. And that's kind of reminiscent to me of some of the stuff I've seen in the post-Vietnam era, because I think one of the trends in firepower, if you're talking about weapons of tomorrow, is that machines more and more become the tool of power and not number of men at arms. And I think 1914 is really the beginning of that change where you can really see it's already happened, and that we've been moving that way ever since. And that is the theme of Woe to Weapons right there. It's like, God, where's this going next? So, Emily, thanks for bringing that up. The book's Lone Survivor. I'll have to check it out. I've heard there's another one, a graphic novel called White Donkey, that someone recommended me on the AMA that I've got on my tab right now. That's similarly about a guy in Iraq, Afghanistan, the war on terror, and what he deals with psychologically for being a part of all that. So I think that's an interesting thing. But one of the interesting things about it is that these themes are relatable to a smaller and smaller portion of the population, as we found ways to basically do the level of warfare that the United States is doing, which isn't great power conflict, but we're able to do this without mass armies and using like 1% of the population, which is way different from the past. So that's something that's changed in the post-Vietnam era that's very different and kind of interesting when you think about it that way. What do I think of Load and Reload? I think they're okay, actually. I think that hindsight's kind of them. I like them over something like Saint Anger or Lulu. So I think Load and Reload are okay. My favorite song from either of those, The Outlaw Torn, is a really good song. I was on some podcast talking about that. Oh yeah, here we're getting down to where I was putting the guy down, the Black Hand being inaccurate. It's a perspective, I'm not saying that Princip didn't want to do what he did and was a puppet. He did. He said it himself. He no doubt believed in his cause. But I think the organization was all too willing to use a 19-year-old and a couple other committed young nationalists rather than sending the trained military guys that they were to do it. I think that allows them to claim that it wasn't them and to maintain the power that they have and not be implicated in this major act of political murder. So anyway, back to that. Yeah, just in case the guy trolling me didn't hear enough of it. Aiden, what's up? Explanation to the troll's fire, goddamn, slightly tangential. Yeah, oh yeah, education be lacking. And that's part of why I'm writing this shit. If everyone knew this, I wouldn't need to put it in a song. But I think that a re-examination of kind of some of the last century of things really tells you how we get to where we are, and it means you don't need any of the conspiracy theories or the deep state shit. You can actually just see the evolution of how the powers that be got to be where they are and how they developed and how their philosophies changed and how that affected the world. You can see all of that. It's all documented. You can just know it as a person on the earth. You don't even have to be a fucking genius or anything. You just gotta listen to some stuff that's out there or read, and I'd love to be a part of encouraging people to do that in the future more. You don't need to feed the trolls. Nobody with sense thinks you're a hypocrite. Okay, thank you. Yeah, what do we have to do to get Warbringer XM satellite radio? I love history, especially the U.S. Civil War. Do some songs during this era. Damn, well, the Civil War is a hell of a piece of time right there, and it's kind of the middle point in firepower and stuff between Napoleon's era and World War I. If you look at the end campaign of the Civil War, they're doing trench warfare on the seas of Petersburg, and it's brutal. And it's like an early stage industrial conflict. So the Civil War, apart from the political and social dimensions, having a huge change in the United States that continues to be felt to this day, and people still are waving the Confederate flag to this day. So that stuff, it shows the impact that this period has psychologically on people, but also in terms of just the development of warfare. There's a lot of interesting stuff there to talk about when you're just talking tactics, strategy, and body count and all of that. What do you think of pirate metal? I don't think it's a genre. I think it's a lyrical theme. I think that genre is defined by music and more of that than anything else. Lyrics can be a part of that, but just because you play a style of metal and sing about something new doesn't make it a new genre. If I write Defiance of Fate and it's an existential song, that doesn't mean it's existential black thrash. It's a black thrash song with lyrics about existentialism. So I don't think pirate metal is a genre. I think also Running Wild, who's by far the most legitimate band that goes under this umbrella, I think, doesn't play pirate metal per se. He's Riding the Storms about sailing on a ship. That it's kind of, they've said it in the age of discovery, age of exploration, as you call it, and that includes pirates. But they also have stuff about Waterloo or whatever. So they seem to just be setting themselves in some historical time to portray what in their mind is a bygone age of adventure. And that's, I think, a lot more artistically valid than some of what I'd call the artistic equivalent of putting on a Halloween pirate hat and saying "Yardy har har." And you can guess from what I'm saying now what I think of that. Have I ever heard of a YouTuber called History Buffs? I think so. Yeah, I think I've watched some of their stuff. There's a lot of great history YouTubers. This guy, the Armchair Historian's really good. Kings and Generals is one of my favorites. I got this shirt from there, the Caesar World Tour shirt. It's just always maps with battles, and this one, Epic History TV, does a great job of laying down some of the big picture stuff with world events like, the World Wars or Napoleon or the First Crusade or something. So am I ever going to do a song about Imperial Japan and the Shogun? Now I've been learning about that, and actually one of the things I wrote about in there is the suicide of General Nogi, which is after the death of the Emperor Meiji following the Russo-Japanese War. He's a very samurai-minded general, you might say, in a modern era with bolt-action rifles and machine guns. He gets a ton of his men, including his own sons, killed, and requests permission from the emperor to commit suicide. The emperor, who views him as a useful servant, they have a long relationship together, says, "No, you can't." And General Nogi lives out the rest of his life. But once the emperor dies, he and his wife commit seppuku to atone for the loss of his men during the siege of Port Arthur and the Battle of Mukden. So that's pretty nuts. And he wrote haikus about it and everything. You can read this guy's poetry about how he feels about sending thousands of men to their deaths and how the shame and guilt he feels towards them. So I find that character to be utterly fascinating and a really cool commentary on the values of a bygone samurai age, basically running into firepower kills the theme. Um, and what that does for the guy who was in command of it. So I might do something. I think Japan's a really fascinating culture, and I think what really gets me in Japan is, the Shogun era is very interesting. I don't know as much about that, but I'm really interested in their early, like, modern imperial period, post Meiji Restoration, where they're modernizing and trying to compete with the European imperial powers by being their own imperial power. I think that period is super fascinating, and it's probably not like the most in vogue thing to talk about in Japan today, if I had to guess. Do I like Karak Anagren? I don't know what that is. Isn't that from Lord of the Rings? Um, Literally in flames. Okay. Any chance of building off old Gregorian chants? Yeah, I'd love to do some like Bathory-esque atmospheric stuff with different world culture musics and stuff, because Bathory does it with like the old Wagnerian European kind of way, and we've done a bit of that and stuff like Guns Fell Silent, but I'm wondering if there's a way we could get that where it's like that same epic sense, but it has like different world musical influences, and put that into Warbringer somehow. And it kind of means that this saga of Eternal War is this human thing that all humans everywhere have had their own ways of partaking in. There are whole different warrior cultures that dealt with the thing differently, and all of that gives me a lot of interesting future material, I think. um Let the human factor show. Metal Church, yeah. What do I think of the New Testament album? Again, I'm a peer and a modern person, so I'm really proud that they're still putting out records, that they still shred. I don't think that they break any like new ground for what Testament's doing, really, but I do think that it's a really strong album. I think Chuck Billy still sounds phenomenal. The players are still top notch. They have one of the great super group lineups ever, and they've always been really cool to us when we play with them. So I'll give them a big thumbs up there, and more power to them. And I'm glad that thrash records are coming out from two generations now simultaneously, and I think that's a really cool thing for listeners to compare both where the original wave is as its own artistic movement versus the new wave. These are linked but also separate artistic movements in different respects, and I think that that's an interesting comparison to make, what the different bands are doing at different stages of their careers. Let's see. What else we got? We're gonna wrap it up here. I think we're getting near the bottom finally. Thank you guys so much. Yeah, I'm here. This is supposed to be 1 hour, but we're 2 hours over that. Song about the 107th Anti-Aircraft Regiment. Oh, hey Coco, I actually talked about them in my Stalingrad lecture I did at CSUN. I mentioned them because one of the things I wanted to say is when I teach stuff, I don't want the study of warfare. Very often it's seen basically as a thing for old white guys. And I don't see why, like, if I have a daughter, why she shouldn't know about Stalingrad or something, or why she shouldn't know how to play chess. So that's something I actually put in there a lot. I was trying to focus on how this is not just a thing that, even though the armies are men generally, it's not just that. It doesn't just affect these people. It's a society thing. It's everyone. So I try to include a lot of that, and just basically so that any person in the audience, whoever the fuck they are, could kind of put themselves into the shoes of the situation I'm talking about. And it's not so much about who I am as what would it be like to be them. And I think that way of thinking is powerful in and of itself. Um, well, yeah, war history is old white guy stuff. Who if you watch military historians, that's who's doing it. And it's usually about the world wars and stuff. And those guys say a lot of great shit. There's tons of interesting stuff, but that's how it's seen as a cultural thing. It's not seen as like you don't see a lot of like women writing military history by comparison. There are some. Barbara Tuchman, Guns of August, is one of the seminal works in the genre. So that's something I try to highlight, though, is basically, hey, whoever the fuck you are, you can be interested in this. You can know this. This can do something for you. This can further your knowledge. And so I brought out stuff like the 107th Anti-Aircraft Regiment, which is a bunch of high school girls on anti-aircraft duty who get hit by the 12th Panzer Division outside of Stalingrad, and they man their guns and die. That's what they do. High school girls drafted. They cared about their country that much. That's real. That's a story. That could be a movie right there. Well, that's a better movie than Shrek 5 or whatever, isn't it? Or Marvel 27. Christ. Um, so and yeah, what Mood Ferris says, I think it's about the brutal psychology of war. That's not actually entirely unique to us. If you look at something like For Whom the Bell Tolls or Disposable Heroes, I think those are great role models for songs that deal with the subject of war. I think that For Whom the Bell Tolls has a very like poetic sound to the rhymes and lyrics, and Disposable Heroes has that sense of like a big evil machine that's kind of spending lives like bullets, and that's very much the Western Front, World War One, whether the listener knows it or not. It is. So there you go. I think I touched on Sabaton earlier. I like what they're doing. It seems a band tailor-made for a dude like me. But again, I'm about extracting the human experience into songs, and I just don't write lyrics about a battle or a time or a thing so much. Even the Black Hand reaches out. You can kind of take that and put it on any assassination. There's nothing in it other than the words Black Hand that dated to any particular time or place if you look at the lyrics. Nothing. And I do it that way on purpose. So I want you to know about the actual thing I'm writing about, but I want you to go figure out about that yourself. And for me, I'm trying to get the human aspect of the story that's interesting and cool, because that's the part that to me belongs in the song. Good job at school there, Max Musterman. Yeah. So but do you like Apocalypse Now? I haven't seen Avengers 4 or any of these, honestly. You can tell what I like and don't. I'm going to wrap it up here, guys. You've been wonderful. To anyone who's still here, I have no idea how many. Do I still enjoy shows with small crowds? Yes. If people love the music, I love to play it. Yeah, Poughkeepsie, New York. That was, it's not always the easiest to get through those shows, and sometimes you're like, "What is the promoter doing? God, why did they put us here? They're losing." But ultimately, you got to play the show, and that's all one side of it. When you're on the stage, you're giving your music to your fans, and that is a sacred thing, and you never compromise that. You always enjoy that. You always give 100%, no matter what. And we really believe that. So we'll play the same show that you would get to a packed raging show if you're like a few people and you're there seeing us. We're going to give you the same damn performance because we're the same damn band. We don't change because the audience changes. We are Warbringer, and we do what we do. And I think I'm going to wrap up on that. Yes, I like Apocalypse Now. You guys have been fantastic. Thank you so much for asking so many interesting questions. I'm here way longer than my wife bargained for, so I better get going. I've been taking up the house talking for 3 hours now. Love you guys. Thanks for the support of Weapons of Tomorrow. We're going to try to see you as soon as possible, wherever in the world you are. Thanks to Napalm Records and Sonia in particular for putting this on. Sonia, hi, if you're still there. And keep it metal, keep it true, demand real content and art from the world. Don't put up with vapid, empty bullshit over and over again. Learn about stuff, and things are explainable. Those are kind of my core messages of thinking right now to what I see in the world. And stay safe, goddammit. Stay safe, stay well, and stay positive. Clearly we're seeing an interesting turn of the chapter in the story of the world right now, and it'll be interesting with all the rest of you guys to see what comes next. Adios.